Sista Shanice in the house. If you're hearing my voice, it means there's breath in your body. It means it's a new day. A new day for you to be working towards accomplishing all the goals and aspirations that you have painted up inside of you. Tune in to Sista Shanice on Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. Every Wednesday for Black Empowerment shows and alternative Saturdays for the community talk shows from 10 a.m. through to 1 p.m. Join the discussions, join the debate and get involved. You can tune in via www.galaxyafiwi.com or for Android phone users, go to Play Store and download the Galaxy Afiwi app. Or find us via TuneIn in the app. Sista Shanice in the house. In the house. Galaxy Afiwi, providing a platform for the voiceless to be heard. Spread the word. So I want to rise up our brother Jammers for the wonderful show that you did earlier today. Oh, it was so interesting. And he was talking about the etymology of words and the hidden sciences behind the construction of words. It was so deeply insightful. And the false ideology that has been created, by a certain group that want to claim that they are superior to us, and then claiming another group through their words and the science of their words, and us being the other group being inferior, and trying to enforce it through their armies, through their sciences, through their media, through their politicians and textbooks. Rise yourself up, my brother, for the enlightenment. And I tell you, it has just set the stage for the show that I've got coming up for us today. Wow. So the spirits are kind of, just speaking to us, on the same wavelength, because the show that went before is just lining us up and preparing us for the show that we have got coming today. And also the clip that our brother played by Phil Valentine, talking about how our reality has been reconstructed, how the perceptions that we have of our reality, a lot of it, is actually a deception, and that we've been deceived as a people into believing a concept of a reality, that's not even real. And today we're going to be looking at that in more detail as well. So what a show, and by our brothers Jammers today, and how it just prepares us for the show that I've got coming up today. And I want to rise up as well. An artist that is doing great stuff. I tell you, he put out a track yesterday, on YouTube. He performed live at the Brit Awards. It was a young man by the name of Dave, and the track he played was called Black. And I'm going to play that for you now, because wow, what a stir. And listen to the lyrics, especially the lyrics at the end, because he just drops in about what's going on right here in the UKKK so brilliantly. Let me bring forward that track. Please take a listen to this wonderful artist called Dave, and it's a track called Black Pearl. I tell you, the brother, he got it all in. Oh my days, rising up our brother, our young brother, goes by the name of Dave, and that was a track called Black Pearl. You can find it on YouTube right now, and I tell you, within an hour, of that going on YouTube, it had well over 30, almost 40,000 hits. Now, when I looked this morning, it was almost 150,000 hits, something like that. This young brother is off the hook, I'm telling you. And he's talking about the inequalities within society. He's talking about reparations. He's talking about a whole range of issues and to do with discrimination that's impacting on us as a people, and the inequalities that he feels he experiences as a young person as well. And he just puts it together in a lyrical fashion, which is absolutely fantastic. Rising up the young man, Dave, and certainly hope that you're going to go and take a listen to that track and to the words of it. And please do share it. It's fantastic. So, thanks for keeping it locked to the Big G Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. I want to thank you for listening to our shows. There's some amazing shows here. If you like talk shows, we've got talk shows. If you like music shows, we've got music shows. So keep it locked to the Big G, okay? Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. Sista Shanice in the house. And we have a great show for you today. Let me just open up the lines just for 10 minutes, okay? Because what I want to do is give anyone that's got any announcements the opportunity to quickly call in to make your announcement, okay? Most of you should know our phone number by now. Certainly hope that you do. If you don't, let me just give you the all-important phone number that you'll need in order to interact with us today. And keep this number, because when we open up the lines later on in the show, I'd like you to have that number ready so you can interact with our special guest calling in from the USA, none other than Franklyn Jones. Yeah, I'll do a brief intro in a moment, but right now let me give you the number. Get your pen, get your phone ready. This is the important number that you will need. +44 207 193 0174. So that number, let me give it to you. UK style is 0207 193 0174. That's the all-important phone number that you will need in order to interact with us here live and direct on the Big G. Or you can Skype us. Just go to Galaxy Afiwi in your Skype contacts. Galaxy Afiwi, that's one word, station. And you'll be able to Skype us live and direct. So we've got a caller 889 on the phone. Greetings. Do we have Brother Aston?
Yes, greetings.
Greetings, Brother Aston. How you doing? Can you hear me? Oh, hang on a second. I've just realized that I can't, on this system that I've got, call you down in the music. So let me just stop the music in the background.
That's what I'm calling you about.
Yes, my Brother Aston, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just calling you to say you have your disco going in the background.
Is it too loud?
Yeah, it was drowning you out.
Okay, we can't have that, can we, Adam?
Thanks
for letting me know, Aston. As much as we love Adam's track, we can't have it drowning me out. Okay, thank you so much for that mic check, yeah? Enough respect. Do you have any announcements that you want to quickly mention?
Not at this time, not at this stage, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to let people know when your show is?
Okay, right. It's, we have the Blacknificent show on tomorrow morning from 10 to 3 p.m. And we also have this evening the Black Father Support Group show as well. So, look forward to everybody tuning into that as well,
What time's the show this evening?
This evening is from 8 to 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the Black Father Support Group show from 8 to 10 tonight, and the Blacknificent show tomorrow, yeah?
That's right, correct. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. And tell us again the time for the Blacknificent show.
It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Whoa, it's a long one. And you have your brother calling in from JA as well to give news reports about what's happening in Jamaica.
Just keep the news on the ground,
Yes.
Because that's the real news for us, because we can't be really relying on some of these sources of news outlets that's out there, because they're just there to just support their propaganda life.
That's
and their agendas. So we'll just keep it real, tell you what the current prices of rice and chicken is on the street,
Indeed. So Galaxy family, tune in tomorrow to the Blacknificent Show so that you can hear a news update live and direct from Jamaica, as well as a lot of other really interesting information from Brother Aston. Oh, rise up, my brother.
Yeah, and as I always do, I'm always looking for other people to contribute us in the same way of telling us what's happening in their local area. So you could be anywhere in this world, but just tell us what's happening for you as the black community in your area, you know.
Yes, indeed, my brother. Thank you for that open invitation. And the number that they will need is the same number that I've given out and will give out again in the show to interact with our brother Aston on the Blacknificent Show here on the Big G.
Yeah.
Nice one. Thank you, brother Aston.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, then.
Thanks for the levels check as well. One love.
All right, bless you.
So rising up our brother Aston there, you can catch him live and direct here on the Big G, okay? So, want to thank him for that levels check there. Yeah, I was enjoying my disco going on here. Rising up, brother Adam, for that track. Rising up the entire Galaxy family. You are an amazing family. We've got a couple of events coming up here that Galaxy is backing and supporting. We've got to make sure we get that logo on it as well. Rise up, Dr. Abu. Yeah, I did send it over. I didn't realize that was missing. So, let's, messages are coming in, fast and thick. Just want to remind everybody as well that we've got the SOS, event that's coming up as well. That's a really important event that we'd like the entire Galaxy family to come out and support. It's so important that we do for we. So that's the Summit of Solutions event that's going to be taking place on Sunday the 15th of March 2020, and it's going to be at the Club Classiques, 28 Upper Tooting Road. That's in Tooting Beck, SW17 7PG. So that's Summit of Solutions. We're calling out all of our movers and shakers. We need everybody to come and get involved in our liberation struggle. We're the ones who are going to have to do the works if we're going to bring about the changes that we want to see, you know, during our time. We can't rely on others to do it for us. We have got to do for self. So, you know, if you are, you know, behind the movement that's about us doing for self, if you want to see a better day for our children tomorrow, if you want to be part of the change that is needed in order to pave the way for our children to sow the seeds, you know, for agri-businesses, to sow the seeds for manufacturing businesses, to sow the seeds for cooperatives, to sow the seeds for our greatness tomorrow, then come and join us at the Summit of Solutions.
Summit of Solution. Our purpose and intention towards our African liberation.
Date for your diary, date for your diary.
Sunday the 15th of March 2020 at the Classique.
From 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. 18 Upper Tooting Road, Tooting Beck,
SW17 7PG.
And the main theme for our Summit of Solutions meeting is going to be about diaspora economic opportunities in Africa. The Russians are having Russia-Africa Summit. The Chinese are having their China-Africa Summit. The Europeans are having their European-African Summits. The UK-African Summit. We need to have our Diaspora Africa Summit as well.
Summit of Solution is no illusion. Sunday the 15th of March 2020 at the Classique. That is our own purpose and intention.
SOS, SOS, I am sending out a SOS to save our sons, save our sons. I am sending out a SOS, mother to mother. What's going on? They're killing our brothers, yes, destroying our sons.
That's what's going on in families. So we are the ones that need to ensure that, we're doing the works that need to be done in order to protect our children and to provide a future for our children, you know. So if you're concerned about the future of our children, if you're concerned about what's going on in our society today, if you're concerned about deportations, if you're concerned about inequalities, if you're concerned about racism, if you're concerned, you know, about the state of affairs, then you need to get involved in Summit of Solution. It's not enough for us to be complaining from the comfort of the armchair in our house. It's not enough for us to be complaining in our WhatsApp groups or, you know, to each other on the telephone. We're the ones who are going to have to come out of our houses and make the change that we want to see, okay? So come and join Summit of Solutions. That's going to be on the 20th of March at Classiques. We've gone to a big expense to put this on for you, the community. So please, you know, put that in your diary and make it a date, and don't be late. The doors open at 4 p.m. We want to start straight away. We've invited officials from several of the embassies here who have said that they're going to be coming to talk to us, to encourage us to look to Africa for investments, okay? We're going to have Brother Akram and members of his team. We're going to be looking at setting up a cooperative so that we can start doing for self. Family, we need you on board. So anyway, also just want to mention by way of an announcement that I've got a YouTube channel and it's called The Sista Shanice Show. Okay, so check it out for videos. I did a recent video about deportations and challenge this whole, you know, perception about us being illegal immigrants here in the UK, which is not the truth at all. And, you know, so take a look at that video. Just go to YouTube and search for The Sista Shanice Show and you'll find it there. And if you want previous copies of my shows, just go to SoundCloud and there again search for Sis Shanice. I am there, S-I-S Shanice, and you'll find previous shows that I've uploaded. And if there's a show that you want that I haven't uploaded, if there's enough people requesting, then I will, you know, take the time to edit and upload, okay? So rising up all of those who have already subscribed to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please go to YouTube and subscribe. Alrighty. And check out the videos. They're all there. It was you, the Galaxy family, that was calling on me to start putting my shows up on YouTube. So I'm doing that and look forward to your support, for you to share, for you to like, for you to subscribe, etc., etc. Thank you so much. Also, before I proceed, I want to just rise up and honor our parents and our ancestors, because had it not been for their sacrifice, you know, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today. So I want to remember our parents who paved the way for us here in the UKKK. I want to remember also all of our heroes and sheroes who died, who sacrificed their life for us so that we can have a better life here in the UK. Let's remember them. Let's call on their names. Let's rise them up. Let's honor them. Yeah, so that their name and their memory and what they did for us is never lost in the process of time. Yeah, let's celebrate our great heroes. Let's celebrate our sheroes. We will have to do it for ourselves. You know, as you know, it's almost an institution in Galaxy now, our Parents and Ancestors Day. We celebrate that on the 6th of June. And, you know, for a number of years now, we've also been having a community celebration around the date of the 6th of June where we celebrate our parents and our ancestors, yeah? So we look to you to join in our celebrations around that time. Only we can do for we. And also, if you haven't already done so, please download the Galaxy app, yeah? If you've got an Android phone, you can download the Galaxy app so that you can, at the click of a button or a couple of clicks, get through to listening to the Big G, Galaxy Afiwi, wherever you are in the world. And there are so many great links there as well. There's links to Ras McCoy's shows, to Sister Zamora's shows that she was doing here on Galaxy Afiwi. There's links to my shows. There's links to the various campaigns that we are supporting, like the Campaign for Truth and Justice, the Space Hive campaign, the Garvey Village campaign. Yeah, there's even a Voodoo link in there as well. There's a link to numerous African newspapers all around the world. A fantastic app. A huge amount of work has gone into putting that app together. I want to rise up our brother Noel for that. So please do download the Galaxy Afiwi app and enjoy. There is just so many features there on the app, and we don't want it to be there idle. We want you to be taking advantage of it. We also want you to be sharing it with your family and friends as well, so that they can enjoy the features that we have provided for you on that app. Okay, thank you, Brother Joel. Also, just a reminder as well about the Sankofa Repatriation Assistance Program. We heard from our sister Yah a couple of Saturdays ago. It's that fantastic hand-holding program that's aimed at repatriating 100 people back to Mama Africa land, and not just leaving them there as they did to us, when they repatriated us to Freetown in Liberia. No, this scheme is going to help you to start up in business. It's going to help you to have a property out there. It's going to assist you in so many ways. And, in order to make that viable, you will have to, contribute even as little as $1 or £1 a month. Yeah, that's what the scheme is all about. And then we will be in a position, or the organizers of the scheme will be in a position, so that it can repatriate our people back to Mama Africa land. So if you like the idea of that scheme, support it. I was at Auntie Jean's on Saturday, and it was such a great event. If you were there, rise yourself up. Absolutely awesome. And it was a great event as well. Also, I want to rise up our dear sister Wynne, who did a wonderful presentation about Ma'at on Friday. Rise yourself up, my sis. And well done to you. Yes, and to all of the Zimbabwe crew that turned out as well. It was so great. It was like a Zimbabwe reunion. So I want to rise up everybody that turned out to support our Sister Wynne. Wonderful presentation, and so informative as well. So thank you all for supporting these community initiatives. It's so important that we do for we. And, people are doing some great works out there. They're doing some great work. So we've got to come out and support. Certainly look forward to seeing you on the 15th of March at our SOS event. And certainly hope that you've got that one in your diary. And do we have a treat for you today with a special guest calling in from the USA. He's going to be calling in soon. His name is Franklyn Jones, and he's the author of the works around the psychological warfare, enlightening us and informing us and educating us about the psychological warfare that is being waged against us as a people. So I need you to keep it locked, because I'm going to be bringing him in shortly. Let me just play a little track while I make the links. We'll go back disco style, shall we? Yeah, for a little while. Let's do a little disco, get a little disco going again. Not too loud this time. Motherland! So Galaxy family, I want to rise you all up. Please spread the word to your family and your friends. Tell them to tune in to the Big G and to keep it locked, because we have a steep learning curve that's going to be going on today. So as I said earlier, rising up again, Brother Jammers, for the show earlier today, he kind of set the stage really for what we're going to be talking about today. We have a special guest that's calling in from the USA, our brother Franklyn Jones, and we're going to be looking critically at developing an understanding, understanding of the matrix that we are in, and how they're using the science of the media and its propaganda campaign to kind of shape our reality. And I believe I have our guest right now on the line on Skype. Greetings, Brother Franklyn. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Greetings, Sister Shanice. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to have you here as a guest on the Big G. Oh, Brother Franklyn, I came across your works a couple of years or so ago, and was using some of your material here on the Big G, in the works that I was doing to talk about, the perception, deception, and, how this false reality has been created. And here I am talking to the man himself, and here we are in London with the opportunity to hear from you. But for those who may be unaware of your works and maybe haven't come across your works as yet, I'm going to ask you, first of all, to please introduce yourself to the Galaxy family.
Hi, thank you. I'm Franklyn Jones. I am the author of the book, The Black Matrix. I was trained in psychological warfare while in the military, and I've been, for the last 25 years, I've been studying psychological warfare, how a society is created through the narrative that are fed into a society. I also saw this firsthand during the Iraq War, when we went into Iraq, and we started to, the American government started to socially engineer their minds. We took over their media, we took over the educational system, and we started socializing them. Because you see, in reality, while the conquerors can defeat a people through their military might, they're unable to maintain peace for long with them unless systems are put in place to ensure that the people never rise up against them. There's actually a science to long-term oppression. And in order for black people to truly liberate ourselves, we must learn this science and then develop counter strategies against it. True black liberation begins with critical thinking and challenging the validity of all information we've received in the past and we currently receive from white sources. Because their monopoly over information that allows them to routinely distort facts in order to perpetrate the myth of their racial superiority and to manipulate our minds to think in ways that serves their interests is their greatest weapon used against us.
Wow. Your works is so important, my brother, especially, during these times, because as you say, it's one thing to win the war, but it's another thing, or win the battle, but it's another thing to win the war. And what they've cleverly done, post our liberation now, is to use their psychological warfare to control our minds and our thinking and our action. So your works is phenomenal, and we're going to be, I think, experiencing a great and steep learning curve today, because we need to understand the science of the media monopoly that's been used over us, so that we can begin to critically kind of analyze what's happening, because I think most of us are just unaware of this science that's being deployed. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to be having with you, and rise yourself up for the important works that you're doing as well. So my brother, the fact that there is this science, as you say, that's being used, to control our mind and our thinking, is going on, and most of us are unaware of it. It's almost as though, sounds like we're a people who, are we asleep? Do we need waking up? What's happened to us?
There are three ways to effectively manipulate the human mind. That's by what we're taught, by what we see, and by what we hear. Because white oppressive forces control the education we're taught, the media images we see, and societal narratives we hear, these factors allow them to shape our minds to think in ways that protects the interests of the white dominant society. Now, the reason why this is absolutely necessary for the position is because is that you?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes. So
No
I just went to quickly get a book. I've got a little quote I want to bring from it. So my apologies. Please continue.
There is something that I want all of my listeners, all of the black listeners, to hear this point. Whenever people are oppressed for long terms, their collective aggressions against the oppressive society will continue to grow until acts of massive retribution and rebellion becomes inevitable. This is an inherent part of the human psyche and condition under long-term oppression. Now, the only way to prevent these acts of retribution and rebellion is by turning the collective aggression, shifting the collective aggressions of the oppressed population away from their oppressive society and redirecting inward against themselves. And this is achieved by constantly demoralizing them, inundating the oppressed with negative information that conveys the falsehood that is themselves that are their own worst enemies. So the fact being made here is the fact that many black people now perceive themselves as their own worst enemies, are self-hating, and revere as whites in spite of a brutal history to the contrary, didn't just happen. It was a deadly coordinated plan programming that took many white social engineering scientists and propagandists years of effort to succeed. Because we were born into this system of oppression, we've normalized it, so we're unable to see what's being done to us.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, continue, my brother. Yeah, I mean, continue, please.
I find it so heartbreaking when I see my brothers and sisters saying that symptoms that they see among us is the result of a Willie Lynch letter. And when I hear my people make that, when we believe that our plight is a result of Willie Lynch, that's like taking a toy gun into a real war. Our condition is not the result of a Willie Lynch slave syndrome. This is why the same self-hate and division symptoms exist among black people who are not descendants of those who were enslaved. Furthermore, the Willie Lynch myth found to be a fraudulent doctrine when experts analyzed it and found words that was inconsistent with the 1700 date. The Willie Lynch was written in 1979 by Dr. Aquino Anti, who's from North Carolina. Now, here's the deal. When the story of the Willie Lynch became popular, after he wrote it, white oppressive forces propagated and spread it throughout our community. Because believing in the Willie Lynch does not liberate us, it mentally enslaves us. In the doctrine of psychological warfare as taught in the military, in the U.S. military, and I do know this dates back to the Tavistock Institution, okay, I understand that. But in the military, they teach you that the most effective way to subdue and control a targeted population is to mislead them to believe that their core problem is an internalized one. When a people believe that their core problem lies within themselves, this turns their collective aggressions against themselves. And according to the U.S. government, that's the most easiest way to control the enemy, to control the targeted population. Now, we must recognize the science because it is never a coincidence when the oppressed are thinking exactly in the manner that serves the dominant society. It is never a coincidence. Those thoughts inside the minds of the oppressed that benefits the dominant society was shrewdly ingrained into their minds by the dominant society. Now, we are so naive about this that, we take our children to school and we focus on they're getting A's and B's and they're behaving in school. But we don't recognize that what's happening in schools is our children are being socialized to adhere to white dominance over their lives. We don't understand what's being done. But now the history of this is, you see, unlike at the conclusion of World War II, when the nearly 12-year Jewish Holocaust came to an end and the United States and the UN contributed massive financial support to rebuild the lives of the European Jews, there, however, was no moral obligation to do the same for African people. Although the African Holocaust lasted hundreds of years longer, resulted in millions of more deaths, America, Great Britain, and many other white nations that participated and benefited from the Black Holocaust felt no moral obligation to invest millions of dollars to restore the black culture. However, fear of eventual black retribution, especially given the fact that their exploitation of Africans and Africa's natural resources continues indefinitely, they instead invested millions into the social engineering of black minds to think in ways that serves and protects white societies. This is where black liberation began. Not clinging to a Bible that was brutally forced upon our ancestors by their ungodly enslavers, not clinging to urban myths, but recognizing the tactics that are being used against us. We are in a war, and the way to overcome the enemy is to study their tactics, learn their tactics, and then develop counter strategies against them. And that's what, presently, okay, although white nations profess equality publicly for all races, all their citizens, in reality, they are secretly, unrelentingly committed to the preservation of their nation's white dominance. And there's also an immense fear of black retribution. This commitment to maintaining white dominance and fear of black retribution necessitates from the position of the white society that they deploy psychological warfare methods for controlling black people. And this particular program that we're all being affected by came into place in 1968. In America in 1968, the African Americans confronted white racism on every front: civil disobedience tactics, militant means, and through black lawyers pleading our case for equality in America's highest courts. So President Lyndon B. Johnson formed this commission to study the problem and to develop remedies for the problem. They determined that the core problem was two things: blatant white racism and the rise of the Black Pride movement. So they recognized they had developed a more covert method to manipulate the minds of black people, as well as to steer our culture away from the Black Pride movement. This system is global. It's a real system we must recognize. I'm going to ask yourself this question, and I'm sure it's happening there too. Have you ever noticed how basically all information, all study results that makes a comparison between blacks and white virtually always favors whites?
It's the same here, my brother. Mm-hmm.
Now, you look at it, do you not recognize how cartoonishly ridiculous it is to constantly have one-sided information constantly favoring one group over the other? Actually it's preposterous. Mm-hmm. But the reason what's going on is a value system that benefits the system of white supremacy is being downloaded into the minds of black people every day. It is a propaganda campaign designed to instill the myth of white superiority into our subconscious minds. Now, social scientists describes it as this. It says you're instilling a value system into the collective minds of the oppressed that makes them adhere to the existing infrastructure of the dominant society. We are being socially engineered, and we don't recognize, most of us don't understand how propaganda works, how it benefits white societies. Even the negative depiction in the Western media of Africa protects white dominance, because it instills within the minds of the Africans who are deployed throughout the world. It makes us see Africa as a source of shame by showing only the poorest parts of Africa and never showing the beautiful cities in Africa. Mm-hmm. And it makes us feel more appreciative of the white man invading Africa and enslaving us, because we see them more as rescuers rather than the brutal enslavers they truly were. You know, people don't think the society does not function based upon a reality nor facts. Society functions based upon the narratives that are fed into a society. Those who control the narratives controls public perception as well as the reality of the masses. I will give you an example. When we critically think, we know that white people are most often favorably perceived as being the group of the highest ethics and moral standings, in spite of such a long and brutal history to the contrary. Mm-hmm. You ask yourself, and black people are perceived as the worst. Mm-hmm. Now, let's look at this. This is not magical. This is not. It is because society functions by the narratives. And here is why this profound contradiction exists. It's because white people control the media, control the narrative. They constantly feed into our society narratives that falsely exalt themselves. Mm-hmm. And they vilify and criminalize black people to falsely validate their past and present mistreatment of black people. It's a tactic known as manufactured consent to mistreat. Our society then functions based upon those narratives. This is why the white propaganda says that perception is more important than reality, because people function based upon their perceptions of reality. So the white man uses control of the propaganda to create the illusion of white superiority and black inferiority. In fact, the great Marcus Garvey said, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, he said the white man's propaganda has made him master, and all those who come in contact with it and accepts it becomes his slave. This is the real world. I'm going to give you an example about how they distort narratives to exalt themselves and marginalize black people. Right now, we function off a narrative. Every time you walk in your house and you turn your lights on, You're thinking in your subconscious that we must find the greatness of a white mind while we have light bulbs. Okay? Now here's the reality. Here's the facts. When we are told that Thomas Edison is the man who lit up the world, but here the facts are this. When Thomas Edison patented his light bulb, no companies mass produced it. No companies purchased, mass produced it because it wasn't efficient enough. It didn't last long. It often didn't last an hour. This is why it was never mass produced. It didn't work well. It wasn't good enough to be mass produced. The light bulb that was mass produced, that was purchased, mass produced, and its inventor hired to go around the world overseeing its installation was a black man named Lewis Latimer. Now you see the point is our society functions based upon the narratives that exalts whites. But we're not functioning based upon the true narrative. The reason why we have light because it was a black man. Society functions based upon the narratives. And that's why what we think is education is actually indoctrination.
Yes, indeed. Wow, what a powerful introduction there to your works, my brother. So much information to absorb, and we're going to take a little bit of time to just break down some of this. I've made some quick notes while you're talking as well. Perception more important than reality. And we live in a world, don't we, where so much is given to us visually, like you say, a lot of us walk in the house, turn on the TV or the television, as we like to call it, and there you have, this perception of reality that they've created, where they've even, put themselves in our history, like they claim to be through the television, the Egyptians look more like Europeans than they do like Africans. And if you don't do your own studying and your own research, you wouldn't even know that, the Great Pyramids were actually built by people of color who look like us. You would believe the lie through the television that the creators and the builders of the pyramids were in fact Africans when they were not, similar to the lie that they're peddling about Lewis Latimer,
Yes.
and not giving him the credit where credit is due for the great works that he did, but instead trying to exalt, Thomas Edison as being the one who invented the light bulb when his one didn't even work,
Yes.
So, and it's the same here, even with all of what you said. I mean, I know that a lot of your research and your work has, been done in the USA, but it's very much the same, situation that we have here in the UKKK, sometimes as we say, where the education system and all that's been ingrained into our minds through education is promoting white superiority, black inferiority. They're painting this really awful image of us as Africans here in the UK as well, to the point where, like you talked about, the internal aggression is happening here as well, where a lot of our young people, not a lot, but there are some of our young people who are killing other young people who look like them. They've labelled it as black on black crime. Every time there's an incident between two black youngsters, they plaster it over all their newspapers to give the impression that it's all of our young people who are killing each other, to the point where they make young black children fearful of each other. Yes. Every day, they're trying to denigrate us as black people, and it's all part of, like you were saying, to move us as far away as possible from the days of the rise of the Black Pride movement, when, and that was a powerful movement that was happening. We were proud of our afros. We were proud to be black. We were proud of our culture, and they were very successful, weren't they, in destroying that movement. I wonder if you can just maybe go into a little bit more detail. So we need to learn from that destruction and how that happens so that it doesn't repeat itself in the future. I wonder if you can maybe elaborate a bit around how they successfully managed to dismantle the Black Pride movement, because that's what we've got to build up again. And we need to make sure that we don't fall again, in the way that we did in the 60s. Over to you, my brother.
Great. You're absolutely correct. During the 1960s, when they did, the Colonel Report did the studies. And yes, this was done to us is being done to you guys also. It's global. We are one people, and they're doing the same tactics against us, okay? Now, during the 1960s, in 1968, when it was determined that the the reason for the unprecedented black revolt was the result of the rise of the Black Pride movement, and it was a result of blatant white racism. They recognized they had to develop more covert means for protecting their white dominance, and they could use the media to do this, as well as use the media to socially engineer the black people. Now, if you're paying attention, in 1968, African Americans referred to themselves as brothers and sisters. Black is beautiful. Now, African Americans now call themselves "What's up, my nigger," and call them bitches and hoes. We went from brothers and sisters to bitches and hoes. We went from wearing afros to now wearing blonde weaves. Okay. Now, this did not just happen. It was the result of a tactic known as media social engineering. Because the white man controls our media images, he's allowed to steer our culture. I'll explain. Most people think that the media, TV shows and movies are made for nothing more than entertainment. That never was the case. Identity is taught to each group of people by how they routinely see themselves within the media. Presently, there are white social engineering scientists that works unrelentingly behind the scene, manipulating the collective minds of black people. These men govern our minds, those opinions of the world, and of ourselves through the information that they provide for us. Now, their ability to affect the beliefs and behaviors of black people is immensely powerful. So much, in fact, that if they wanted black youths to start walking around daily with a yellow comb in their back left pockets, all they would have to do is saturate the media with that image. Rap videos, movies, depicting it as cool and trendy. In doing so, our black youths will then imitate and adopt the image as being entirely their own. However, the style and behavior was the result of media social engineering. This is all possible because perceptions created by the media leads to non-deliberate, thoughtful decision-making or decision below the consciousness. So social norms promoted by the media can influence the thinking of a people. It's often called thinking without thinking. It ultimately leads to people developing the same behavior. Now, because black and African Americans, they determined that the Black Pride movement was the thing they had to remove, they started making these black exploitation films. These black exploitation films had black people acting in a buffoonery way, and they called themselves niggers and bitches. And our youth flocked to those theaters because they gave them an image of black people unseen before, because they were heroes. They're in their own movies. We've never seen it on a silver screen. Now, seeing this, people started absorbing. Oh, that's how we call ourselves niggers. That's how. And even today in America, many African Americans believe it was their own decision to call themselves niggers. It was a result of social engineering, because those who control the media image of a people are able to steer their culture. The best social science have confirmed this. Our culture, our media images are controlled by white oppressive forces, and allows them to negatively steer our culture.
We were, as you said, at the point where in the 60s there was this great movement of ours where we were coming together as a people. We were calling each other brothers and sisters. We were, we knew that we needed each other, and we had to depend on each other in order to survive, but they were able to very cleverly, through the media, through the rap videos, and through the music, you were saying, and through their films.
Yes, they were able to steer us away from the Black Pride movement.
Wow.
Because they control our image, we imitate and we follow. And here's also, social scientists find those people who have been stripped of their true identity and culture are more susceptible to media social engineering. Because African Americans are descendants of slaves who've been stripped, we are more susceptible to it. Now, to piggyback on what you said about we will call ourselves brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you, words have power, okay? Words affect how we perceive ourselves and how we treat others. This is why men who call themselves thugs are more likely to engage in violence. This is why men who regard women as a bitch is more likely to mistreat her. Words affect.
Yes.
And this is proven during the war with the Japanese War. Many of these American soldiers had problems torturing the Japanese soldiers. So the social scientists taught them to teach the American soldiers to regard them as chinks, goop, Japs, because the word allowed us to dehumanize them, and it became easier to mistreat them. So in the same format, when you condition black people to call themselves derogatory words, we are more susceptible to mistreat each other, because words affect our subconscious mind. Words, when repeated often enough, becomes our biology. That's how we treat people. They're waging a covert war against us that most don't understand. And, it's funny because this is the type of dialogue that needs said more often. We are living the time of the awakening. And to understand the awakening, black people must question, must challenge the validity of all information we receive from whites in the past, and that we from them. Because as long as whites are controlling the information, they always place propaganda within it that serves their nefarious agendas. An example of this, if you pay attention to the movie The Black Panther, very successful, and we were proud to see Africa depicted in a positive manner, and we paid attention, you would notice that the black revolutionary was the villain. The black revolutionary killed a black woman. They always have a method with the program to include their propaganda to make us think in ways that serve their interests. It didn't just happen that so many black people are self-hating, perceive themselves as their own worst enemies. It's because the white society. You also touched on, we always hear about black on black crime, black on black crime. Constantly propaganda. But every group kills, every group, homicide rate for every racial group is above 80% of the same group. Now, the reason being is because people cohabitate among their own. People marry among their own. People among their own. People cheat among their own. So that's why. But the black man's black on black crime is the only one that's been overemphasized.
Yes.
It's been emphasized because their goal is to keep our collective aggression shifted away from themselves and inward against ourselves. This is how they maintain their white dominance. Whenever a group in power wants to control a targeted population, they do so by demoralizing them unrelentingly. Demoralization is a method of control. Hitler said demoralizing warfare is demoralization is the warfare of the future. Demoralization used it used the immense power that shame has upon the human mind. Enslaved millions of black people.
So if, for example, we get rid of this shame, for example, because back in the days, we used to have a thing like shame, man, shame. Nobody wants to feel ashamed. Nobody wants to be shamed. And what you're saying is that they're actually using this as a weapon, just the way that they're shaming us about Africa. Despite the beauty of Africa, they've been very successful in clouding our minds with such negative and awful images of Africa. It makes some of our people even embarrassed to be called an African.
Embarrassed. In fact, the programming in America is so immense that you have millions of black people who get angry when they're called an African, but they smile when they're called a nigger. Think how that is. Millions of people who get angry when called an African, but smile when they're called a nigger.
Wow.
Of social engineering. Now, let me give you a basic example of how this system works. Let us there is a ship out at sea, okay? And on the ship is a well-functioning ship. It's large, and the crew is well competent. But following behind that ship is another evil ship who is constantly bombarding the first ship with fraudulent, negative, demoralizing information about themselves, such as that their ship is not seaworthy, slowly sinking, that their crew is incompetent, that a mutiny is being planned. The group constantly receiving the constant negative information about themselves will become besieged by the negative information and will start resenting themselves, hating themselves. Some will then want to disassociate themselves from their fellow sailors, and they will dive in the water and swim toward the taunting ship, even if their ship was in fact better. As I said before, this system of control uses the immense power that shame has upon the mind to demoralize, divide, and create black self-hate. This condition makes us much easier to control. It makes us more compliant with white dominance over our lives. In fact, the system is so proficient that it causes many of us to prefer white dominance over our lives.
Yes, my brother, let me just interject very quickly there just to say that, I've even heard it said, in Zimbabwe that, things were better under the white man. Because, they control the media over there. The Europeans control the media, and the government just has one newspaper, and there are about, it must be about a dozen newspapers that they've got on the newspaper stands, and all the other 11 out of the 12, say, are controlled by the West. And so they are relentless and persistent and consistent in this really awful negative narrative about the government, about the country, about the economy, about its infrastructure. They never stop, to the point where people believe, even though they're free, even though now they own their own land, even now, they're in a position where they can take control of the resources and start manufacturing it and processing it for themselves. Even though they're in that situation, they believe, because of the narrative, that life was better under the white man. They've forgotten about apartheid. They've forgotten about how they were treated, how they were whipped, how they were lynched, how people were massacred, how people were tortured. They've forgotten the hell that they were going through, why our people had to rise up and fight. And this generation that didn't actually live through apartheid are saying they believe that life was better and would be better under the white man. Their science is powerful. And let me just quickly read here, my brother, a little quote from the book, The Miseducation of the Negro. I want to rise up our brother Jaminia and Nathaniel on their show last night. Turned me to this book again by Carter G. Woodson. And it's got a really famous quote here. And it says, when you control a man's thinking, turn it up a bit, Marwana. Okay. And it says, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. Hence why the pursuit to control our thinking, because as he was saying way back then when he wrote this book, if you control a man's thinking, you don't need to worry about his actions. Hence why we can live amongst, those who murdered our ancestors and are continuing to plot and scheme, about our demise. So the science that that you've looked into and that you're sharing with us and that you had experience, of implementing back in the days when you were in the army, it's a powerful, powerful program. And we need to understand it, understand it so that, one, we can see it when it's being used, and secondly, so that we can organize a counter strategy as well. So, while we are being controlled, we are not a threat to them. But their biggest fear, I would imagine, is that one day we're going to wake up and we're going to see the game that they've been playing with us. And we're going to come to our consciousness and start doing for self and protecting ourselves against, this white society that's not operating or functioning in our interests. Now, I think first of all, before we go into how we can begin to strategize around countering, this science, I think it's just so important that we get, an even deeper understanding of how it works. I know that you've analyzed their tactics, yeah? And I wonder if you could just maybe identify a couple of specific tactics that we could be looking out for, so that when we see it, we can say, oh.
Right, I will. Before doing so, you said you went into the education, the miseducation of the Negro.
Yes.
Profound, because you gave me a segue. There's something I would like to, it'll be an injustice for me not to respond to that, because I want to discuss that more in depth about what's actually happening.
Yes.
You see, the programming of black minds starts within our schools when our minds are young and most impressionable. White government schools do not provide a racially affirming curriculum for black students as they routinely do so for white students. They instead intentionally give black students a marginalized version of their history. This is actually essential for maintaining white dominance, because for the dominant society to maintain their dominance over the oppressed, the education given to the oppressed must be the least racially evaluating. So when the oppressed is given is denied a racially exalting curriculum, this psychologically assigns them to accept their subordinate status within. And for many black students, their schools is the first place they begin to feel that there's something lesser about being black. White children, this devaluing, miseducation of black people is being pumped into the minds of our students without being counterbalanced by an equal amount of positive affirming information, and is downloaded into the minds of black students from the age of 5 to 18. Now, so black students are being subconsciously conditioned to believe that they're inferior and whites are supposed to rule over them, and whites are being miseducated to believe that they are inherently superior. We are being miseducated. A people's aspirations are greatly influenced by the stories they are taught about themselves. People function. If people are given negative information about themselves, this demoralizes, this divides them. When people are exalting information about themselves, just bring them together and lift their self-esteem. We are socially engineered to protect the interests of white society. And many of us, even though when we see these messages, when we quote the miseducated Negro, we still send our children to school, and because it's all normalized. That those the ignorant ones who are brainwashed are full of confidence, and they outnumber those of us who are woke. And the system of programming is so effective that before we can confront the system of white supremacy, we're forced to fight amongst our own who have been brainwashed to defend it. This system. Okay, now I will break down some of the things that you asked for, and the system, they're all using against us. The tactic, like for example, you know that in your society, black people are constantly negatively depicted in the media, and some people ask themselves, why is this happening? Mm-hmm. There are three major tactics that the white society uses against us. One is called manufactured consent for mistreatment, divide and conquer warfare, and mass gaslighting warfare. Now it's very important.
Well, let me make a note of that. So one is called
manufactured consent to mistreat.
Manufactured consent to mistreat. Wow. Yes.
The other one was demoralizing divide and conquer warfare.
Demoralizing.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer warfare. Mm-hmm.
Mass gaslighting warfare.
Mass gaslighting warfare. Yes. Okay. So these are three specific tactics that we're going to look at now. Yes.
And they use it against you, all of us. I'm going to explain the first one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Manufactured consent for the mistreatment of black people. Whenever those that are in power wants to create a national setting that allows them mistreatment of a targeted population, they use the media to spread fraudulent propaganda portraying the targeted population as being a major problem for society. This creates a consensual national setting that makes all the treatment of that targeted population appear justifiable. Now, what manufactured consent more specifically mean is to turn a normal population into a fearsome enemy of society through false negative news propaganda. Mm-hmm. Then false negative perception of the group to justify routinely mistreating them and even killing them. They also dehumanize us, make others insensitive to our life. See, the white man recognized that the old blatant methods used for maintaining white dominance had become no longer morally acceptable with the changing times. So they had to develop more covert means for protecting their white dominance. So to mistreat black people, you have to vilify black people. Yes. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say I have a cage behind my house, and I have people in a cage. And there are neighbors who are walking by, I don't want the neighbors to feel sympathy for those that I'm mistreating, so I'm going to vilify them, criminalize them. And this creates a consensual setting that of them appear to be as justifiable. So this is what's being done to us.
Yeah, suddenly I'm hearing a lot of background noise, like wind blowing through. I don't know if, it's like, I can hear a lot of background noise. I don't know why that's changed. Maybe our engineer can look into that. I hope it's not coming out over the airways and interfering with people's listening at all. Yeah. Okay, going back to this manufactured consent to mistreat black people. Yeah, we've got a situation right here, right now in the UK, my brother. They have been demonizing Jamaicans, criminalizing Jamaicans to justify deporting Jamaicans back to Jamaica. That's exactly what's going on now, my brother. You know, to justify their mistreatment of Jamaicans. They are calling them all hardened criminals, and they're having to send them back to Jamaica and empty their prisons here and empty the homes of these former hardened criminals and send them back to Jamaica. That is exactly what's happening. So as not to get the sympathy of the people, this is the label that they've put on them, to the point where some of our own people are saying, yes, send those hardened criminals back.
Yes, send them back. You have it 100%. You applied it 100%. The media is being used to vilify the Jamaican people population, to create a consent that makes the deportation of them appear to be justifiable.
Yes.
This is the tactic that they use. The media is a weapon that facilitates the system of white supremacy. You know, even Edward Snowden, you are familiar with Edward Snowden, right?
Yes.
Yes, even he himself said that the depiction of the oppressed and the underrepresented in the media is never an accurate one. It is the one that the power are using. The oppressor's depiction of the oppressed is never a true one. It's always one that serves a nefarious agenda. They always use this tactic. I love how you just applied that to the Jamaicans. And then you will see other black people saying, yeah, get rid of the damn Jamaicans.
Yes.
Because most people are not critical thinkers.
No, not at all. They've labeled them as hardened criminals, and people have just run with that narrative that they're all hardened criminals and are demanding that, yes, they are sent back. And when you look at the cases on a one-by-one basis, you will find that some of them are not hardened criminals. A number of the cases have been highlighted, and some of them are one-time offenders. You know, and some of them, even the one offence that they committed, they served their time, they were released from prison, they'd been in our society, one of them for up to 4 years, he'd settled down with a wife and a child, you know, was getting on with his life when suddenly immigration has decided that, you know, because of this previous conviction, they want to deport him. So, you know, the white society has decided that they want to reduce the number of black people in this country, and they've got to come up with any excuses and justifications for doing it. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go after people who have got convictions so that we can claim that they're hardened criminals. People won't object to us returning hardened criminals. And after this group, they'll come with another excuse for another group of people. Oh, they were born after 19, what have you, or the year 2000. Let's get rid of all of those that were born before the year 2000, for example, because their country was independent and they can be returned back to the country of their independence. And it's all part of a scheme to just reduce the number of Africans living here, you know, who have the right to live here as citizens. And this is the mistreatment, but our people don't recognize it and don't realize it, because, as you said, and as Carter G. Woodson was saying, that education, you know, has control of our minds now.
Yes. And the white man does not give us an education that truly liberates us. His monopoly for information allows him to control the narratives that we receive. So the fact that most of our people don't notice is not that that we're deficient or, you know, we don't have great minds. Is that many have never heard of the term socialization, manufactured consent. Many don't understand that there is a science to long-term oppression. There's a science to maintaining dominance. Now, exactly how you can see how those Jamaicans are being misrepresented in the media to create a justification for their mistreatment of them. There is a propaganda campaign that is being deployed against all black people on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Okay. The white media intentionally portrays black people as being a part of a treacherous, frightening, and insane trend, thereby creating a false impression of wanton black criminality and violence. This creates contemptuous, distorted perceptions and incriminating belief about black people that are designed to make the nation and even the entire world insensitive to our plight, tranquilize efforts on our behalf, and make any serious criticism of white racism almost impossible. When black people is made to appear justifiable, this creates conditional response to the nation for eventualities to unfold against black people without resentment. In fact, like you said, many black people would say, yes, come in our neighbors and kill these blacks. Come in our neighbors. They are socially engineered. They don't recognize. Their minds have been manipulated against themselves through propaganda.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, my brother. And the second tactic you said was the demoralize, divide, and conquer war. I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more on that one, please.
Okay. The white media's unrelenting negative depiction of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts reality is so much more than just biased media reporting. It is actually a demoralizing, divide, and conquer warfare. Okay? Out history, oppressors have often deployed demoralizing, divide, and conquer. Because when the oppressed are divided and hating, they're easier to control. That modern system is deployed like massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects black people to receiving only the fraudulent worst information about themselves. Is the message that it carries. Okay, within this system, fraudulent black, racially demoralizing propaganda is pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting mind of black people. It conveys the subliminal message that black people are their own worst enemies and therefore rights to govern over our lives. Moreover, that black people should admire, respect, and only one. This system is extremely effective because when black people are repetitively presented these noted narratives from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist by programming, especially that the propaganda is being applied unrelentingly. With time, being unable to refute the constant negative information about themselves, many black people eventually comes to accept it. They become resentful towards their own people. Many will associate themselves with other people. It also turns the collective aggressions of black people away from the oppressive society and redirects it inward against themselves.
Yes, my brother, and it's driven a lot of our people to even want to try and flight their own race. There's a substantial increase of race mixing going on now. You know, a lot of our brothers and now even some of our sisters mixing, dating outside of their race. They are so demoralized with their own image of themselves when they look in the mirror. You know, they want to, you know, reprocreate with someone who don't look like them. We've also got situations where a lot of our people are using skin lightening creams, again, in an effort to try and, you know, remove the blackness, so to speak, because, you know, they've been so demoralized about the image of themselves. And yeah, it stops us from coming together as a people, because if you look in the mirror and you don't like yourself, if you don't like yourself, how are you going to love your brother or love your sister? You know, and you said that this is global, and it's so true, because on a global scale we can see the impact that it's had, say in Rwanda when we had the Tutsis and Tutsi and Hutsi's war. I mean, you know, these were cousins, these were their neighbors that they were murdering, and this is the scary thing about this social engineering and this mind control technique. It can, you know, control our people to hate people who look like themselves. I mean, look at South Africa recently with the xenophobia. I mean, how crazy is that? They were seeing their own brothers and sisters who were born in other parts of Africa as being foreigners, but then they didn't see the Europeans and the Indians or the Chinese as foreigners. I mean, how warped is that?
It's the result, as we say, it is social engineering. But before I say that, you said something earlier. You mentioned about how in Africa they're bleaching their skins. Now you made a point that reminds me to those who are listening, who thinks that the bleaching, the self-hate is a slave syndrome. The continent of Africa, many of those who are bleaching their skins in Africa are not descendants of those who were enslaved, but yet they are still bleaching their skins. They're still wearing long weaves. So the system is not a slave syndrome. It is the fact that it's the white man's monopoly over what we see, what we're taught. We're constantly given information. Now to move to South Africa, the turning the South Africans against the Nigerians and the Ghanaians and the others, it is by design. There is an immense fear among the white minority who still controls the media of the white society, of the black majority, feeding South Africans propaganda to keep the South Africans' collective aggressions shifted away from them, and they're making them believe that the other Africans from other places are the ones stealing jobs. But we know that in no way whatsoever is a surgeon from Nigeria stealing the job of a South African laborer. He's not. But as we know, people are not critical thinkers. So those who control information, they continually bombard the South Africans with propaganda that creates division between them. Many people don't understand how this works. Like, for example, in America, we will see a study comes out in the paper. The study shows that most Latinos don't like blacks. Both blacks and Latinos are not getting along. And you try to tell people, you must understand that these narratives are controlled by white oppressive forces who protects their interests, protects their society by keeping our collective aggression shifted in other directions. That's why it's imperative that we learn how this propaganda system works. Must recognize all nations socializes their oppressed to think in ways that serve the culture, and the oppressed are rarely aware of it. If the people of us are listening, that we understand that our with a biblical fairy tale forced upon our ancestors. If the Bible was, it would be kept far away as possible from our ancestors and not be forced upon them as it was. It's not Willie Lynch. It's the fact that the white society, there's an immense fear of black retribution that exists among the white society. And so therefore there are propagandists and social scientists who work behind the scene manipulating our minds. It's within our school systems. It's within our medias. It's in the news report. It's even in movies when we think we're just being entertained. They're constantly bombarding us. Like if you watch the movie Blood Diamond, there's a scene where the African actor looks into the camera and giving a monologue, and he says, "We were better when the white man controlled us."
Oh, there you go. Planting that into the minds of those Africans who are probably repeating the same line.
And here's how movies work. When you're watching a movie, and here's the deal. When you're watching movies, it's not like when you're in a debate or a conversation where you say, I agree with this or I don't agree with that. Your mind is in the alpha state, okay? And information is slowly being downloaded into your mind and your subconscious, and you don't realize it. People need to recognize that there is a science for controlling billions of people.
Yes.
Science. When you've been oppressing the people and treating people for centuries, you have to manipulate their minds. But once we recognize the system, we start developing counter strategies. Once this system depends upon ignorance to prevail, by educating our people, that we will liberate ourselves.
Yes. And we've been saying that, for decades. This book that I referred to, written by Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro, I think that was written in the 1930s. And, and we're still normalizing the education system and putting all our children in there. Someone was saying, there's so many examples that we've used here on the Big G on Galaxy FOE, to question and to challenge why we're actually doing it. We talk about the inequalities within the education system. We talk about the curriculum and how it's, insulting to us as a people. It doesn't elevate our children's minds at all. It dumbs us down. We can come up with a list of 100 things that's wrong with the current education system. Yet we as a people have failed to even set up one single black full-time black school here in the UK. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's simple to do so, and I know that the forces and the long arm of the government will do all it can to try and undermine and to prevent that from actually happening. But, you know, the power isn't there to then just simply keep our children away from those schools and educate them in the home or in small groups, you know, so that we can begin to take back control of the minds of our own children. The will still isn't there. We are still kind of asleep to the you know, we've not awakened to the point where we're prepared to take the action that's needed to bring about the change that must come in order for us to, you know, be truly liberated. I mean, what is still stopping us, you know?
It's what a society's values, what it thinks is important, what it thinks is worthy, is greatly affected by the narratives they receive. So, as long as white society is using that monopoly on information, black people, it makes it difficult for black people to come together. I'll give you an example. In our society, there's more sympathy given to the Jews than is given to Africans. In reality, millions of more Africans died in the Holocaust. It was far more brutal. It lasts hundreds of years.
Yes.
But there's more sympathy. Why? Because the media exaggerates and push out sympathy for the and the media marginalizes the black people. And it even places the blame more greatly upon the backs of Africans, saying that they give you false propaganda that most Africans were sold away fairly. We have to understand now. I'm going to say something. When you give people the right information leads to actions, to proper actions. Right. When our understanding is flawed, then all remedies that stem from that misunderstanding will also be flawed. Now, I'm going to give you something right now. How when a people knows what's being done to them, they then develop counter strategies as a necessity to survive, to make them. Now this is a story I give. Let us imagine that there is an African village.
Yes.
On this African village, mysteriously the babies are dying and the elderly are dying and everyone else in between are ill. Now the African population on this village don't know what's going on. In the misunderstanding, they will think of superstitions. They may think God's angry with them. They may have all these different thoughts. Now, but let's say you know what's really going on and you inform the people. You said the reason why your babies are sick, the reason why people are dying, because those the Europeans who moved in the land next to you want your land, so they've been poisoning your water. Right. Your well is contaminated with poison. So now once you deliver the proper information to the minds of the Africans in the village, the information produces proper behavior. 1, stop drinking from the well. Okay? 2, they will dig another well. 3, they'll place guards on that well. And they'll confront those who are poisoning them. Yes. It is acknowledged this is an inherent part of the human psyche. When you give people the proper information and you concisely explain it to them, that understanding produces action. Yeah.
Yes. It's just like, I mean, there's a real life example very close to that actually. And it comes a couple of years after the Haiti hurricane. I don't know if you remember, the UN were down there in force, you know, and basically the hurricane was just a cover for them to come in and control the country with their military. And cholera broke out. Yeah. And it was later discovered that it was actually the UN that had started spreading the cholera. And as soon as this was found out, they were basically chased out the country. But yeah, you're right. Until they had that information that the UN were actually the cause and the source of the cholera, you know, there was, you know, confusion and you know, the UN were there, I suppose, able to give them vaccines and medication. And we know only too well, you know, that a lot of these vaccines and medication that is handed out to our people in Africa or wherever we are in the world detrimental to our health. It actually gives us diseases and sicknesses like AIDS, Ebola, autism, etc. But they have to create, the circumstances, which will allow them to justify giving our people the mass vaccinations or whatever their plan is. So that's the demoralization one. And then there was a third one, you said, the gaslighting tactic.
Yes, the gaslighting tactic. They're using it again.
Yeah.
I was trying to say something before I went down.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I mentioned about how narratives are used for power. And, in Jerusalem, which we know that they are not true Jews, they merely converted to Judaism. Okay.
That's right. The Ashkenazis. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, when the Ethiopian Jews were seeking asylum to come to Jerusalem, they were led us to the government, the U.S., and they were ignored for years. Mm-hmm. And then the media, some propaganda, some stories came out telling about what was going on. The Jews government said, "Okay, we're gonna get them." Now, here's what the Jews told them. The Jews in Ethiopia say, "We are the Philistines. We are the true Jews." So therefore, we claim title to the land. So the Jewish government said, "We will accept you under one condition. You must accept the narrative that you come from the seed of Dan that dwells in the hills of Ethiopia." They created a narrative that the Ethiopian Jews were a subordinate sect of Jews. So it's under these conditions we will bring you into our country. See, society functions based upon narrative, and the white man thing is he always creates a narrative that exalts himself and mocks. And there's a true power is the ability to create narratives, false narrative, and then force those false narratives upon a group and make them behave in according to the false narrative. Substance of reality is a white deception. Okay, now to answer your question about mass gaslighting warfare.
Yes, please, yeah.
Nowadays, whenever black populations attempt to protest any mistreatment we endure from white societies, the white establishment will never legitimize these grievances. They will instead always respond by presenting narratives that counters and undermines the black protest. The tactic is known as mass gaslighting. This tactic is what's being done whenever black people protest, perhaps cops killing black people, and the media, they call you thugs and criminals, or they say, what about blacks who kill blacks? That's the tactic called whataboutism. They create these tactics that allow them to divert away from black protests. Now, normally the term gaslighting is known as a psychological abuse that usually associates two individuals in an abusive relationship, wherein which one person manipulates the other one. However, the same system is used on a large scale where one group is being manipulated for the benefit of the other group. Gaslighting is a form of psychological warfare wherein which oppressors routinely create and then impose false narratives beneficial to their own cause upon the oppressed. It is a form of psychological abuse wherein which information is always twisted, spun, and effectively omitted to favor the oppressor. This routine behavior by the white establishment in response to black protests is intentionally being done to mentally abuse the population. Okay, this tactic is also what's actually being done. When white society labels black people as racist for talking about racism. That's a common one. When we talk about white racism, they call us the racist.
Yes.
The black leader speaking about white racism, he's deemed a racist. This tactic shifts the focus away from the inequality being expressed by the black population and force us to instead engage in defending ourselves against a false allegation of racism. Meanwhile, the true issue of black inequality is never addressed. Yes, you get it. It's really sophisticated. This mass gaslighting system is the reason why we literally have, in America, peaceful black protesters saying, please stop the cops from killing us. And the white establishment responding by calling them thugs and criminals and using deflecting commentary to avoid the issue. This psychological warfare is what we're witnessing when you hear black people say Black Lives Matters. and the white society response to all life matters. The tactic of life matter is a propaganda tactic that is used to diffuse the moral statement of Black Lives Matters. We are dealing with a really sneaky people. Okay. Now, within this psychological warfare system, the white establishment is never acknowledged as morally wrong, and the black oppressed are never acknowledged as morally correct. This practice is continued until the black population begins to doubt their own positions. Many begin to doubt their reasons for protesting, thinking if their cause isn't being recognized by the dominant society, then perhaps it lacks merit. The minds of a targeted population are quite easy to manipulate if they're unaware of what's being done to them. Once the minds have been confused, manipulation becomes simple. The mind will even ignore common sense, rationality falls away, and it even overlook hypocrisy and deception. Now, here's the kicker. The same tactics is used in prisons. The same tactic is used for prisoners of war. When in prisons, there are tactics in the prison books. Okay, I also work for the federal penitentiary. When prisoners protest, the establishment never acknowledges that you never do, never. You always create deflecting. You never give the oppressed the moral high ground. Okay, then you identify the leaders who is raising up the protest, and you define them as agitators, and then you remove them from the group. The same thing happens. Then you bombard the prisoners with demoralizing, fraudulent information about themselves to keep them divided and fractured. Tactics used for controlling prisoners are being used to control black people. They have a sophisticated system of racism. See, and this is more proficient, unlike the blatant racist tactic that black people were easily able to identify and therefore counter strategy against it. This system of control is not easily recognized nor comprehended by most black people. We've never heard these tactics. They're kept from us, but right there in the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, they have these things within their books. But you notice how much their books cost if you go online? They're so outrageously expensive because they're trying to keep them out of the hands of the masses. There are tactics for long-term oppression, and our oppressors will never educate us about these tactics.
Wow, some powerful information there. I'm going to open up the lines, my brother, just in case we've got some listeners who might have some questions that they would like to ask you, because, wow, you have, dropped a huge amount of information on us over the last hour and a half or so, and I'm sure our listeners may have some questions, and so I want to open up the lines to give them the opportunity to call in. So, listeners, you've been hearing, from our brother Franklyn Jones, who was up at 5 a.m. This morning, his time, so that he can, share this information with us that he has developed over the years. And, it's some powerful stuff, this whole psychological indoctrination. He goes into details of how it works. So I certainly hope that you've been listening and have your questions ready. Let me give you the landline number so that you want to, if you want to use it to call in. It's 0207 193 0174. 0207 193 0174. And if you're calling from outside the UK, because we do have a lot of callers outside the UK, rise yourself up if you're listening to us from outside the UK, KK. Yes, if you're listening to us from the Gambia or Ghana or Nigeria or Jamaica or America, we know we have listeners in all those places. St. Lucia. Rise yourself up. Just put a +44 in front of that number and remove the first 0, and then you'll be able to call us here in the studio. If you have Skype, you can call us free of charge via Skype. You just go to Skype and search for Galaxy Afiwi, one word, station. That's Galaxy Afiwi station, and then you'll be able to call us free of charge and interact with us here on the Big G. So certainly looking forward to your interaction and your calls. And we have our first caller calling in. Let's see if I've managed to successfully add them to the call. Greetings, caller. Who do we have on the line?
Greetings, Sister Shanice. This is Sister Sesame calling from Botswana. Greetings, my sister.
Greetings from Botswana. How are you doing, my sis?
Doing blacktastic. I'll tell you what, I'm so excited.
I love
to
that,
hear
blacktastic. Doing blacktastic. I'm going to use that one. I love it. Rise yourself up, sis. Yes, it's a pleasure to have you listening in. Continue, my sis.
Sister Shanice, thank you so much for getting Brother Franklyn Jones on. I used to listen to him all the time. I was following him while I was in the U.S. I don't know if he remembers me, on Time for an Awakening. And so, and I mentioned that I was going to repatriate back home after almost 40 years of living in the U.S. So I've been home now for a little over a year. So, Brother Franklyn Jones, it's great to hear your voice again.
Let me just check that I haven't accidentally cut him off. Brother Franklyn, are you still there? Brother Franklyn, are you there? Oh dear, I think I might have accidentally cut him off when I accepted your phone call, but
that's no problem at all.
He'll call back. Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to just give thanks for all the hard work you're doing, Sister Shanice. I think it boils down to, social engineering, as Brother Franklyn Jones mentions.
Yes,
you can see it clearly, and I know you travel to Zimbabwe all the time. And being back home has been a near traumatic experience, but fortunately I think I had armed myself, and the ancestors were definitely on my side, because once you're awake while living in the diaspora, you come back home and you see it, in action. All the destruction, the maafa.
Yes.
It's no longer a theory. It's a reality that we have to live in. And in addition to surviving as an individual, so that you can be part of a community that's going to rise up, you have to work super hard to come up with solutions, because that's the only way to go. We are the only ones, as you say, and I know Dr. Abu says it too, and Chief, you all do an excellent job on Galaxy Afi. We must do for self.
Thank you.
We must do, nobody else can really heal our kind. As Abu says, we have to come up with the solutions, and we cannot come up with the solutions unless we know the system that's being used to destroy us.
Yes, my sis.
So I am absolutely excited. This is encouraging. I know you all do great work, but we need you here, and Botswana is a great place to repatriate to. We've got a good foundation here. We're close to Zim. You have to have two countries that are working together.
Yes.
I know you've set up a good foundation there, my sister.
Yes.
So I am really, really looking forward to working with those who want to repatriate. Before I get off, I don't know how much time you have for me to just mention.
No, it's fine. And while you're on the phone, I've messaged our brother Franklyn Jones to please call back. So I'm hoping that while you're on the phone, he'll call back in so that, I can merge his call with yours here. Sometimes we have a problem merging calls. Brother Franklyn, are you there?
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, wonderful. My apologies. I think I accidentally cut you off. We've got a sister on the line from Botswana who knows you from the days of time. Anyway, introduce yourself to the brother, please, my sis.
Brother Franklyn, greetings, my brother. Greetings from Botswana.
Greetings, my sister. Greetings. How are you doing today?
I used to listen to you all the time on Time for an Awakening, and so I've repatriated back home now, after living in the U.S. for almost 40 years. It's a little over a year. I came October of not last year, the year before. So I was just saying thanks to all the hard work that you're doing, because we have to know the truth about the system that's continuing to oppress us. And I totally agree with you, my brother, that it's not about the Willie Lynch that we've been miseducated about. It's all about the social engineering that's ongoing. I was saying how painful it is when you return home, because the good thing about Africa is that we are the majority. And therefore, I think, if we can get a lot of our people mobilized to know the truth, then the majority, it'll help our cause. But at the same time, because we are the majority, you get to see the Ma'afa in reality, because most of our people are totally destroyed as far as their minds go. Nothing has really changed. We need a lot of education. And I wanted to share something that occurred this week. You talked about how they blame us for everything that they're doing to us. I attended a local meeting. They have these traditional courts this week, 2 days ago, in my neighborhood. And fortunately, the junior chief who was presiding had asked me to say a few words. There was a member of parliament who was present, was really the main speaker. But I looked around. It was painful to see how few men there were in the audience. Very few of our brothers. And so I asked the question, I asked the audience, the chief and the member of her, I said, I'd really like everybody to look around and see how few men are present at this meeting. What is going on? Where are our men? What's going on? Mm-hmm. So everybody looked around and they agreed. Very sad situation, because the destruction has always been towards our men first, and then the women being so-called empowered and given opportunities. But when they don't have the right mindset, that's really a great way to destroy a people. So I addressed that to the chief as well as the member of parliament, who then answered me. His response was, the men, they're not here because they are killing themselves. They're killing. They do not go to hospitals. They don't go to doctors. They prefer to take traditional medicines. So the women are living longer because they go to the doctor, etc., etc.
Oh no!
I could not, I wasn't surprised. So I listened and I thought, this is not right. It's unacceptable. But we know it's because he's been miseducated.
Yes.
People need to know the truth. Because I was saying, what is killing our people? So we need to get, why are they sick? Is then the next question, the next time I get an opportunity. So, I just wanted to give that example because, like I said, when you're here on the continent, there are plenty of opportunities, and I'm excited about repatriants. There's plenty of land, peaceful, lots of just everything is here. It's virgin territory in Botswana, but we need people to start getting the right information. So I'm appreciative of you being on and Sister Shanice and Galaxy FU having brought you on board as well.
And you asked about solutions because just from what you said there, my sis, we can see the size and the scale of the situation. Caller 270, I was trying to add you. I may not be able to add you until our caller from Botswana leaves, but please note I've been trying to add you. So solutions, so we talk about the fact that the miseducation system is also impacted on our brothers and sisters on the continent as well. We're talking about over 1 billion people, who need to be re-educated, country by country, and then, hundreds of millions of us outside of Africa. The scale, of the miseducation is just almost overwhelming. And when you consider all of the mediums, that those who don't look like us have for continuing to peddle their lies, through the curriculum, through the newspapers, the films, etc., how do we begin, to get a real serious foothold, into the works that's needed to begin to change the mindset of our brothers and sisters globally?
Correct. And the other thing, the education system here, which I know is really global as far as that on the continent. They have been pushing this so-called English medium education, which is really, these are just, institutes of indoctrination, as we all know. What Botswana has been doing, I found this out when I came, is they're now pushing for younger people to be sent to schools because they pay for all the education. So they want people as soon as they're potty trained. I'm talking about 3-year-olds to be sent away from home to these institutions. So they've already, made everybody believe that the only education that's appropriate is a European type of education, but they're going to be getting kids at a younger age now. So this is absolutely crucial that we attend to this the matter, because the destruction that's going to occur is going to be so massive. I'm not sure of how we're going to really turn it around. So as you were saying, Sister Shanice, the schools, we need a full-time school, but in the meantime, we really need to push for weekend schools, after-school programs. Fortunately, we've got great support here. I've got few people, very few, because I'm starting from scratch. But the chiefs in this area have always been pro-tradition, pro-culture, pro-really being African. So they're supportive in finding out as much as they can. And we're actually working on setting up a meeting with the Minister of Basic Education, myself and the chief going tomorrow. Because they're ignoring us if you try to make an appointment by phone. The chief is the one doing it. And typically the chief, if he calls, he gets an appointment. But because it's also involving the whole issue of homosexuality, which they tried to get the law passed and then they had to withhold it, it's gone to the appeals court. They've been ignoring his calls. Making an appointment. So he said, listen, we're going to just go there, because it's just 30 minutes drive to the capital, and make these appointments, as well as with the Minister of Education, of Health. So, the work is studying. We've got some support, and I think as long as we stay on course, hopefully we'll get to some solutions. But I think education is going to be the most crucial.
Yeah, so it's a grassroots movement. And maybe in Africa, because, education is valued so highly, maybe they would be more inclined to support the idea of Saturday schools and weekend schools, especially if they were free to the local people. Unlike here in the UK, because education is free, our people don't seem to value the extracurricular education and the African-centered education that they would get through the Saturday schools, and just fail to support the Saturday schools on the scale that it's needed in order to give our children that critical mind that they need. Let me invite our brother Franklyn to come back in and respond to some of the points that you've made, my sister Soma.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks to Brother Franklyn Jones. Give thanks.
Thank you. Keep up the great works in Botswana. We will be seeing you out there one day soon, my sis. One love.
Yes, my sister. Very soon.
More love, more power, more strength to you. One love.
More love to you. One love.
Brother Franklyn, inviting you to come back in, please, to comment to... sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Can I just check? So we have Brother Franklyn in the group. We got our sister Suma. Do we have anybody else in the group?
Support the idea of Saturday schools.
Okay, my sis, I wonder if you could mute your phone, because we're getting some feedback.
Education is free. I don't seem to value extra education in the African
Sorry about this. My sis, can you please mute your phone? Okay, I've had to. I think I've muted it this end. Brother Franklyn, are you there?
Yes, I am. I wanted to say something. Have you noticed that when we speak to our people globally, and they're all faced with the same dilemma as we do, a value system protecting the system of white supremacy is downloaded into the minds of black people globally. Every our brothers and sisters, it's happening within the educational system, it's happening within their media. We are being downloaded with misinformation that is designed to shape our minds and think in ways that protect the system of white supremacy. It's how the white world protect themselves from unified attribution. This is always trying to control our education. They always want to control the media, because those who control the media control the collective brainstem of the society. So they constantly feed us information, and they fear the oppressed thinking on their own. on their own. Rebellion and retribution is inevitable. We must recognize the science of long-term oppression, and we must use the internet. Never before in history, since the colonizing of Africa and enslavement of Africans, have we had the ability to communicate globally like we're now doing. Now, unfortunately, now that we have the ability to communicate, sadly, too many of our people have been socially engineered to prefer to use the internet to put on twerking videos, comedy videos, nonsense. But we use this opportunity. The most effective way, the best way to use this is by communicating. Because sadly, our images of each other globally is controlled by whites. When we see blacks in Britain in our media, we're seeing a white depiction of black people in Great Britain. When you're seeing African Americans, you're seeing a white depiction of African Americans. When we're seeing a white depiction of Africa. And those who control these images and narratives, their goal is to keep us demoralized and divided. We must.
I hear you, my brother. I've got some callers who are trying to call in, but unable to get through. My brother Franklyn, if I was to ask you to ring off and to listen to the calls, are you able to go online and hear the station and listen to us? And then call back in?
Oh, okay, great.
That would be awesome. I'm having some problems adding callers to the line, but please do listen off air for a short while and then call back in again, and I'll see if I can add some callers first and then add you back afterwards. But it'd be good if you can hear the other callers as well. Alright, thank you, my brother. So our brother Franklyn Jones is just going to ring off just so that he can make way for other callers to come in. Please do listen to us via www.galaxyafiwi.com, my brother Franklyn. Okay, so I'm going to try and add caller 270 who's been trying to get through, but I know I'm going to lose our brother Franklyn when I accept this call. All right. Greetings, caller 270. Thank you for your patience. I've been having some challenges trying to add you. Our brother Franklyn Jones has had to ring off so that we could bring you in, and hopefully he's just setting up so that he can hear your comments via the www.galaxyafiwi.com. So, greetings, caller 270. Who do we have on the line?
Hi, this is Desmond here again from Bedford. Greetings, sister.
Greetings, brother Desmond. How are you doing?
Oh, uplifting to listen to such a beautiful conversation that's going on.
Great. I'm delighted and I'm honored as well, to be able to have Franklyn Jones speak to us all, because, as I said, I've come across his works a couple of years ago, and my other sister as well said, she's familiar with his works. And his works is profound. It's so deep. This is, master's level, PhD level, professor level stuff, and it's a huge amount that is being downloaded to us all at once. So I'm thinking we need to kind of break it up and really begin to to unpack it, as my other sis would say, a lot more, so that we can all understand what he's saying. But wow, the science.
He's a friend of mine on Facebook, and he often tags me into things, and I have a lot of admiration for him. Brilliant. Because he's a courageous brother. Because he's not afraid to speak truth to power. I just wanted to ask him about his opinion on religion, because in terms of social conditioning and social engineering, religion was at the forefront of the destruction of black identity. And I just wanted to, I don't know if he's still...
He's not on the line, because I had to clear the line so that I could bring your call in. Are you calling via Skype or the landline number?
Landline. Okay,
yeah, I'm going to monitor and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay, yeah, well, I was unable to bring you in to the Skype call conversation, so he's hopefully listening offline. If not, I've got a note of your question. You'd like to know his opinion on religion.
as the beginning of the destruction of black identity, because in terms of, for example, Islam, when it went into Africa and its spread of it, it was spread at the point of the sword, and many of our leaders were converted to it and became slave traders. Christianity, particularly that which was first exported by the Portuguese into West Africa, one of the things they used to corrupt the black strength was to tell them that their gods were weak and that European gods were superior. And the leaders converted to Christianity and took on Christian names, like Alfonso I, and sent their children to Lisbon to be educated. And that is why Queen Nzinga rose up against the Portuguese. And we don't hear those challenges to the spread of Islam and Christianity.
Yeah, it's we've normalized it now, haven't we?
Not knowing that it is an alien concept to our matriarchal system. So I just wanted to get his ideas, maybe sort of feedback as to how does he see religion in terms of the socialization of the African people, including those in the diaspora.
Yes, my brother. I will put that question to him. Hopefully he's listening. If not, I'll put that question to him when he calls back in. Rise yourself up, my brother. Thank you so, so much for listening and for keeping it locked to the Big G, Galaxy Afiwe.
All right. Enough respect, love and unity.
Enough respect, love and unity back at you, my brother. More love, more power, more strength. So that's our brother Desmond calling in to put a question to our brother Franklyn Jones. The lines are now free. If you want to give us a call and put a question to our brother Franklyn Jones, now is the time to do so. We've been listening to our brother Franklyn Jones, who is the author of the book The Black Matrix, and you can go on to www.blackpeoplesmatrix.com, or if you just Google Franklyn Jones Black Matrix, his work will come up. And it's a huge body of work, and it's dealing with Harold. I've got a message through from him. Technical difficulties. Okay. So, he's been doing a huge amount of work for us as a people to try and, get us to understand this psychological warfare that has been waged, against us. And, that way, if we begin to understand, the science of the technology that's being used, the sciences that's being used to control our minds, then we will be able to, do the works that need to be done to come up with counter strategies, and so that the effects of the whitewashing and the brainwashing doesn't, continue to make us feel inferior as a people and to make us feel powerless and to, take away our power. So the lines are now open. Give us a call if you'd like to put a question to our brother Franklyn Jones. Let me find the telephone number for you that you will need to call in on. Okay, I've got a few pages here. Let me just minimize some of these pages so I can get to the one with the phone number. Where are you? Here it is. The phone line number that you'll need in order to call in to the Big G is 0207 193 0174. Get your pens ready. The number that you'll need to call in on is 0207 193 0174. That number will take you in live and direct to the Galaxy Family Studio. So, as you know, Galaxy Afiwe is a station that's actually providing a family with a platform so that our voices can be heard. Our often silent voices can be heard via that medium. So, give us a call. Let's refuse to be silenced. Let's refuse to, be quiet. which is another thing that they try to do through their manipulation of our minds. Tell us that, we don't have a voice, we don't have a view, or what we have to say is unimportant, not Nagosa at all. Okay, so give us a call here on the Big G, 0207 193 0174. Okay, or you can get in contact with us via Skype, and you just search for Galaxy Afiwi. Download Skype, search for Galaxy Afiwi Station, and then give us a call free of charge from anywhere in the world. I have been speaking to the great Franklyn Jones, who has been doing some really important work that's so needed during these times, because we're a people who are like punch drunk right now. It's like we're a people who are in a deep coma, who need to be woken up, and our brother Franklyn Jones, he's on a mission to wake us up. So he believes that we're victims of an elaborate mind control programming campaign. What do you think? Are we the victims of an elaborate programming mind control campaign? Are we the victims? Is that why we have some of the problems of feeling, self-loathing towards ourselves and towards each other? Are we, being controlled through the media, the newspapers, the television, the films? Are we as a people being unknowingly, unwittingly targeted for the most elaborate divide and conquer warfare campaign? Is that what's going on right now? I need you to call in and let us know. We've got our brother Akram on the line. Greetings, brother Akram, and let me just check if I've managed to add back our brother Franklyn Jones. Brother Franklyn, do we have you back on the line?
Yes, you do.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so Brother Akram, go ahead first of all, please, and put your question to our brother Franklyn Jones.
Well, it's not so much a question. I just wanted to answer something that gentleman called in before I go to that.
Okay, before you go on to that, my brother, let me just brief our brother Franklyn, who may not have heard the question put by the former caller. So the caller before, Brother Desmond, said that he wanted to hear Dr. Franklyn's opinion on religion and the extent to which maybe religion has been used to socialize us as a people. Because our brother Desmond was saying that he feels that, at the beginning of our kind of erosion or distortion of our black identity came with the introduction of religion, with Islam that was spread at the point of the sword, with Christianity, which was also used, to control our minds, and we were told that our gods were inferior and their gods were stronger and mightier and more superior. And also we know with religion as well, we were conquered at the point of a sword and forced to take on Christianity as well. And so our brother Desmond was flagging this up to find out what our brother Franklyn Jones' opinion was on religion. So what we'll do is we will come back to that question after the points that you have to make further to the points made by our brother Desmond. So brother Akram, bringing you back in.
Yes, my point is, we've been very, as I said, you mentioned the miseducation of us, and one of the deep miseducation that we have is about Islam and Africa. Okay? First of all, let me explain to the listeners. No Muslim armies has ever gone into Ethiopia, and over 50% of the Ethiopians are Muslims. No Muslim armies has ever gone into Somalia. Ethiopia embraced Islam exactly even before many Arabian countries embraced Islam. And there was no armies went into those countries. Secondly, Somalia, when the Portuguese came up and was conquering lands on the east coast of Africa, Somalians were the one who basically stopped them and actually went back down the coast and helped to free other countries along the east coast of Africa and defeated the Portuguese. So these are histories that I hardly hear anybody talk about. So please, when you speak, please get the facts right. Islam has been into Africa, yes. But it was not spread by the sword all over Africa. It went to the north of Africa, defeating the Romans who was occupying those areas. That's how it came into Africa by the sword, by fighting the Romans and defeating the Romans in the north of Africa. But south of that, it came in by people merchants and so forth, just going around, and they decided to embrace the deen, the religion. But it was not spread by the sword. Slavery of Arabians came into Africa much later, at a much later date, and especially into Zanzibar and Tanzania, where about 300 years ago, where slavery, where the Sultan the Sultan came into East Africa and started enslaving the people there. But until then, there was no slavery in that part of East Africa.
Yeah, so we hear what you're saying, my brother, about the different ways in which Islam kind of came into Africa. You know, in some parts it was by the sword, in some parts, you know, it was embraced, and people are, until today, continuing to embrace that religion. But I think the point as well that our brother was making is whether or not, you know, these new religions, because obviously prior to the Muslim religion, we had our African spirituality, we had our African religions, right? So I think the point is...
That's correct, but what we have to understand is, why did these people choose of their own free will, especially like Ethiopia, to embrace the religion?
Well, so we know that some did and some didn't they? And even in Ethiopia, you still got the Orthodox Jews, you got the Orthodox Christians, you still got different religions in Ethiopia. So not everybody embraced it, but yeah, some did, and you know, some inherited it, I would imagine, from their parents, just like we have done with Christianity here. A large, you know, Jamaica as a former British colony, you know, was Christianized in the schools, and then, you know, the children that grew up as Christians, when they became parents, they grew their children up as Christians, and now the whole thing's just self-perpetuating. But I think the point is, I think what we want to do is look beyond, you know, the introduction of Islam and Christianity into Africa and us embracing it, to a place and a time where, you know, we had our own African spirituality, and when we were more powerful, when we were at our greatest. So if, you know, at the time when we were great, we had our own gods, our own spirituality, our own religion, yeah, and we worship gods who looks like us, and we were a great and mighty people during those times, compared to now, when we've embraced other people's religions, you know, whether it was by the sword or whether it's by choice, we do have to look critically, I think, you know, at the extent to which maybe those religions are socializing us into seeing ourselves as inferior and elevating, you know, other people's gods. Because normally you would expect, you know, a god that you serve to look like you. You would, you know, most people worship gods in their own image, but that's not the case with the Muslim religion or with Christianity. So we do need to look at that critically and sensitively and objectively, I think.
Yeah,
so it'd be good to hear what Brother Franklyn has to say on that, but let me allow you to make a further comment.
Yeah, let us hear what he has to say on that.
All right, my brother. One love. Thank you very much for your question. So, over to you, Brother Franklyn Jones. While you were off air, and thank you so much for making way for the callers to come in. We had a call from Brother Desmond. He raised a whole issue about religion, which we know is very divisive as well. But nevertheless, you know, we do need to get to the place where we as a people can critique, you know, religion. And, you know, look at the way that religion was introduced into Africa. And as Brother Akram was saying, it wasn't always by the sword, and also look to what we had before. But let me allow you to come in, please, Brother Franklyn, and share with us, you know, your thoughts and opinions and your ideology about religion and its impact on us as a people, and whether we should be embracing these religions or not.
No,
I focus on research and facts. And I know it's very, can you hear me?
Hearing you loud and clear. Yes, my brother.
It's always a very touching subject when we discuss people that are very defensive and protected of their religion. But the facts are the slavery of Africans predates this, the slavery by Arabs predates the slavery of the Africans by Christians. And the facts are this: Arabs enslaved African men and turned those African men into eunuchs. They cut their penis and their testicles off, and they were eunuchs. They used African women as sexual concubines. Okay, so now not everyone the religion was brought in by the armies, but the ideology then spread throughout Africa. The fact is, the religion was introduced to different various parts of Africa where there were Africans who were enslaved by Arabs who removed their penis. Now today we are so indoctrinated that we now fight to defend religions that our ancestors fought to resist. We now fight to defend religions that were brutally forced upon our ancestors under the most horrific conditions. If we could go back in a time machine and see what the Arabs was doing to our men and see how they were raping our women, we would not stand up so strong to defend that religion. Now, in terms of Christianity, we have to look at facts. Facts have to matter if we're going to liberate ourselves. Okay?
Sorry about that. If you can hold just 1 minute, please, our brother Franklyn. Brother Akram, you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah, I wonder if you could come off and just call back, please. Thank you so much, my brother. Okay, caller 276, I was trying to add you. I might be able to add you now that Brother Akram has kindly made way. Brother Akram, thank you so much for your question, and our brother Franklyn is in full flow of responding to the whole issue of religion. Okay, please continue, Brother Franklyn. Sorry about the interruption there.
In regard to earlier question about Christianity, here are the facts. Black liberation, first of all, begins with critical thinking and challenging, examining the early white Christians, enslavers, and colonizers. Their conversions of Africans into Christians had nothing to do with saving the souls of Africans so that Africans may join them in heaven in the afterlife. Nothing. This is an irrefutably factual statement, because the early white Christians believed that Africans weren't humans, that Africans had no souls, and that heaven was for whites only. In fact, the early white Christians believed that the thought of an African entering the kingdom of heaven was as ridiculously and as blasphemously as ridiculous as a dog doing so. This is a historic fact. When we logically look at facts as they were, we can say with great certainty that the white enslavers' conversion of Africans into their faith had absolutely nothing to do with saving the African souls. There was another self-serving reason why those men put their time and energy into teaching Christianity to a people they otherwise they brutalized. The self-serving reason was to indoctrinate the belief of a white God into their subconscious mind. Indoctrinating the belief of a white God into the minds of the African created a profound admiration towards whiteness that then subconsciously transfers over to white people. This made black people feel subservient to whites. This made the colonization of Africa easier, and this made Africans into better slaves. This is the fact. They've always used, white society have always used their monopoly over information to shape our minds to think in ways that protects their interests. And if you look at the history of the men who wrote the Bible that we know was written in 325 by the pagan Roman named Constantine and the Council of Bishops. If you study the origin, the lifestyle of the Roman people, they engaged in wife swapping, mass orgies, debt sport, extreme pedophilia, and they justified slavery. An immoral people writing the words of God disqualifies the Bible from being the true words of God. We have to look at critical thinking and facts. And a religion that was brutally forced upon our ancestors by their ungodly enslavers and their ungodly colonizers. The reason why we accept these such foolishness is because the religion was indoctrinated into our minds when we were young, before we had developed our critical thinking skills. By the time we develop our critical thinking skill, the religion is already in our minds. And then we ignore truths. And the reason why it is so difficult, the reason why there's rarely ever resolved when trying to teach truth about certain religions to religious black people is because a woke person presents historical facts, evidence, critical thinking, and reasoning. But the religious person has been conditioned to ignore critical thinking, to ignore reason, to ignore facts, and to stand by their faith in spite of all the evidence to the contrary. To try to teach truth to a person who has abandoned critical thinking and reasoning is no differently whatsoever than trying to feed medicine to the dead.
Wow. Speechless. Oh, especially on the last line there, trying to, counter the argument on religion to a person whose religion is like feeding medicine to the dead. But we can't give up on our people. We need to try and save them. Obviously, we need to start with the children first as well. But my brother, as difficult as it might have been for some of our people who are into religion to hear what you have just said, it needed to be heard. It certainly needed to be heard because, if we can just imagine for a minute today, those early white colonizers or those early, Muslim invaders, who were cutting off the penises of our men, who were raping the women, who were, making sexual slaves of them. To think that these are the people who had the so-called moral standard of what, how we should be conducting ourselves, to have favor with the God that they served, and we want to serve that same God. And to think of the conduct of those same Europeans as well, who, came with the Bible in one hand and the gun in the other. And we know as a people here in the UK, especially our listeners to the Big G, only too well of the massacres, the slaughtering, and the genocide that they've carried out in the name of their God, and how they forced that religion on us. And we even know the origins of where they got those stories from the walls, of the temples of Egypt, and to think that, we've been so brainwashed and so conditioned into believing, all that they have written in that Bible. And we even know that there was another version of the Bible, one they called the slave version, which took out of the Bible any idea of rebellion. So as bad as the Bible was, they even changed it. I'm trying to add a call. Caller 276, trying to add you. I'm not sure if I've managed to do so. Caller 276, doesn't look as though I've managed to successfully add you to the phone. Brother Franklyn, while you were off air, were you able to listen via www.galaxyafiwi.com?
You get an error. There's something wrong with the website. When I click it, there's an error.
Oh, I wonder if you can maybe just refresh. Yeah, refresh the website, and please listen to us via www.galaxyafiwi.com, and then go to the Listen Live page, and then press play. And please listen. And then what I'm going to do is bring in some more callers. Unfortunately, I'm unable to add the callers while you're on, but I will be able to add you after I've brought in some callers. If we could do it that way. Thank you so much. And thank you for that heavy response on religion. We will be coming back to that. I'll just allow a few more callers to come in with some questions. Thank you so much. So, callers, our brother Franklyn is going to ring off now to allow space for you to call in. He's going to listen to us via the website, www.galaxyafiwi.com. gmail.com. So the lines are now open. If you would like to contribute to the discussion, if you'd like to ask a question, if you'd like to, maybe make a statement or a point, now is the time to do so. We are 34 minutes after the top of the hour, which means we are only 26 minutes before the top of the hour. So we've got 26 minutes left. Please don't leave your call until a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, because by that time we have to keep the contributions very, very brief. So give us a call now on 0207 193 0174. The lines are now free. Caller 276, you were trying to get through. The lines are now free for you to give us a call should you still want to do so if you have a question. So we're speaking to our brother Franklyn Jones. He is the author of the book and the whole works around Black Matrix. Yes, he says, there's a powerful propaganda campaign that's being used to control our minds and our thinking. And we know from the works of our brother Carter G. Woodson that if you control, the man's thinking, then you don't have to worry about his actions. Are we a people who are being controlled? Are we a people who just don't even know who we are? Are we a people who, have been conditioned to know our place, to not even try and rise above that place which has been, set for us? Give us a call and let us know. Let me bring in that little advert that we've got for our event coming up on the 15th of March.
Summit of Solution. Our purpose and intention towards our African liberation.
Date for your diary, date for your diary.
Sunday the 15th of March 2020 at the Classique.
From 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. 18 Upper Tooting Road, Tooting Beck.
SW17 7PG.
And the main theme for our Summit of Solutions meeting is going to be about diaspora economic opportunities in Africa. The Russians are having Russia-Africa Summit. The Chinese are having their China-Africa Summit. The Europeans are having their European-African Summits. The UK-African Summit. We need to have our Diaspora Africa Summit as well.
Summit of Solution is no illusion. Sunday the 15th of March 2020 at the Classique. That is our own purpose and intention.
SOS, SOS, I am sending out a SOS to save our sons, save our sons. I am sending out a SOS, mother to mother. What's going on? They're killing our brothers, yes, destroying our sons.
Yes, indeed, Galaxy family. Only we can do for we. So we've got Summit of Solutions coming up on the 15th of March, and we are going to have to find the solutions to our problems. We can't sit back and expect others, to fight to be the solution to our problems. Rising up, Brother Nathaniel, how you doing?
Greetings, rise up, Sister Shanice, rise up. I'm not too bad. Lessons for the day.
Wonderful show last night. I caught some of it before I went into Noddyland.
Oh, blessings. Give thanks for that. Yes, and I mean, you just touched on the point of, Honorable Carter G. Woodson.
Yes.
Miseducation of a Negro is what I was, dissecting yesterday. Bringing it back to basics, bringing it black to basics.
Yes, my brother, I heard you. So I picked up my book and I looked at the back, and it was just so much in line with what our brother Franklyn Jones was coming on the show today to speak of. So the spirit of our ancestors is talking to us, and is, telling us that we need to start, like you're saying, dissecting, what's happening to our minds and see where our mind is at right now. But continue, and also I want you to just remind the listeners, just in case we've got any new listeners, please let them know when your shows are and what your shows are about.
Indeed. first and foremost, just wanted to rise yourself up, Sister Shanice, and Brother Franklin as well, and the previous callers, because all valid points, and it just brings more substance to, you know, the missions that we're on. So rise up and give them thanks, and to the Galaxy management, of course. But yes, so Brother Jaminya, he's across the borders in Ghana, still on the mission in developing the engineering and, you know, promoting the word of development for our brethren and sisters over in Ghana. So Brother Jaminya, myself, Brother Natnara, we do our show every Tuesday, 10 p.m. Normally we say to 12 a.m., but it normally goes over because, as you know, and as you know, we all know, the conversations really get, you know, vibrant, and you know, we can't just end it there. So every Tuesday, Black to Basics, Brother Jaminya, myself, Brother Natnara, 10 p.m. to about 1 a.m.
And that's 5 p.m. EST time. Rise yourself up, my brother. So yeah, you've been listening to the program. You've been hearing from our brother Franklyn Jones. What say you?
First of all, it's just so refreshing to, you know, when he's explaining it, it's with complete assurance. As he said, he's a man of facts and research. So you can tell when someone has really done their due diligence in finding out the information and critiquing it, not just taking it in and, you know, just letting that be what they believe in. So my views, or my points and questions really is, you know, there's been a big uproar and news, I think, spread across the globe about the first black news channel in the USA, apparently. So they launched, I believe it was the 10th of February, and I just wanted to know our Brother Franklin's views on this news channel. And, you know, because when we think about how we're able to, as you touched on, Sister Shanice, how we're able to try and change and allow the minds of our brothers and sisters to at least look at things from a different perspective. What is his views on this news channel, and what is his favourite influence, you know, for our people?
Okay.
You know, I believe it's possible that it can have that positive influence, but as we know, what I played also yesterday was, we have to understand that it's almost like we are the rat in the box, and the conditions are set by the experimenter. So we are constantly in a frame of, we're working in the framework of the oppressor, you know. So how is it that this black news channel is able to operate in the confinement, you know, of the conditions that we're in? Yes, I'd be eager to hear Brother Franklin's views on this.
Yes, okay. Hopefully he's listening via the www.galaxyafiwi, and I can see he's calling back in to respond. Thank you so much, my brother. I haven't been able to add him. Actually, I have been, and I've got Sister Shahida in the group as well. So let me just check. Sister Shahida, are you there?
Yes, I am, my sister.
Wonderful. I'm going to bring you in 2 seconds. Brother Franklyn, are you there? Brother Franklyn, are you there?
Yes, I am, my sister. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear the other callers? Sister Shahida, please rise up, Brother Franklyn.
Rise up, my brother. Rise up.
Were you able to hear that, Brother Franklyn?
Yes, I can hear her loud and clear.
Awesome, fantastic. Were you able to hear Brother Nathaniel Natnara put his question about the Black News Channel?
I was not, because there's a problem with the website. The website's having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Brother Nathaniel is still on the line. Brother Nathaniel, can I ask you to please just summarize your question and put it again to our Brother Franklyn, and then I'm going to bring in Sister Shahida, and then I'll ask Brother Franklyn to respond, if that's okay.
Of course. Rise up, Brother Franklyn. It's a pleasure to hear your words of wisdom. Yes, and just to cut straight to the chase, there's the black news channel that started up in the US. I believe it initiated on the 10th of February. I just wanted to know if you was aware of it, your views on it, and whether you feel this could be an influence to, you know, a tool of progression for us to unlock the mind, you know, emancipate us from that mental slavery mindset, whether it be across the US or across the globe. And yes, that was my main point, really.
Wonderful.
Yeah, on the other note, just rise up Sister Shahida as well. Give thanks to her.
Thank you. Give thanks, my brother. I wonder if you can listen offline so that we can leave leave a line open for someone to call in. Caller 728. You can call back in now. Rise yourself up, brother Natna. How do I say your name? Your
Natnara.
Natnara. Rise up yourself, brother Natnara. One love. Let's bring in Sister Shahida. Greetings, Sister Shahida.
Nangadef.
Nangadef. Jamarek. Nagasubasi.
Zamarek.
Oh, rise yourself up, my sis. Go ahead. And we have Brother Franklyn Jones on the line.
Oh, Brother Franklyn. Oh, my goodness. I am so glad. Normally I'm at work, but I'm off this week, and I'm so elated. I am so elated to hear my brother. However, with regards to your response to the Arabs, Islam, and that spread throughout Africa, I agree with you with 100%. Now, we tend to, when we join, I mean, my eldest son is a Muslim. And, you know, at first I tried my best to tell him, but, you know, he thought, well, the best thing on earth is Islam. And, oh, Mom, you should try to be a Muslim. I said, yes, I was in the Nation of Islam, so I don't need to try anything else. But my question is, my home is in Gambia, and I bought DVDs for the family to watch, for the friends to watch. But the young people in particular, they refuse to watch these DVDs. They refuse to listen to this information. How then can we pursue to reframe their minds from Islam?
Wow, that's a deep question, because as we know in the Gambia, it's something like 90% of the population is Muslim. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And they've grown up into it from children. Yes, yes. Okay, so let's go over to our brother Franklyn. There's two questions. One from our brother Nat Nara, who was asking for your opinion about this first black news channel that's been launched in America, and whether, you know, what your views are on it, and whether you think it will have the power to be able to change the minds set of our brothers and sisters from watching that channel. Is it possible that it's likely to be a positive influence? And you heard the question from our sister Shahida about, you know, the work, the uphill struggle in trying to, you know, open up the minds of our brothers and sisters in the Gambia who have been, you know, indoctrinated into the Muslim religion. Over to you now, please, our brother Franklyn Jones.
Okay, in regards to the first brother, his comment about do I think that us getting a black media is a great thing? Yes, it's a great thing. But however, it allows us to spread our own narratives, because the problem we face is our enemies are creating all of our narratives. Our enemies control our narratives, and they always spread information or they negatively distort our image to perpetuate white superiority, or to marginalize us and dehumanize us. Their propaganda. Now, but how? Even though we have now have a black media that's being launched, I'm still skeptical. I'm waiting to see, you know, they're going to do their program, because Because we had BET for years, and BET only further negatively perpetuate black stereotypes. BET negatively steered black culture. So often we have our black people who are well off, successful, and they're in a position, but they have these European mindsets. They don't want to discuss narratives that offends the Europeans. So I'm waiting to see how they're going to do it. Okay. Now, in regard to the sister about religion, and she talked about trying to teach people. Now, I know there are people who are listening to her, that sister, listen to our conversation, and they say that a people have a right to believe whatever they want to believe. Okay, I know. Let me finish. That's a common thing people say. But however, there is an exception to this rule, and this exception to this rule is among the oppressed. When ideologies divide the oppressed and hinders the liberation of the oppressed, we must push back against those ideologies. We must push back against ideologies that keeps us mentally enslaved. Now, I would say to you, it is a great challenge to try to convert, to awaken the eyes of those who are already older, grown. And many people, once they have a belief, they ignore all narratives. They ignore all information that shows that their belief is wrong. So the best thing I would say is, one, teach those who are young. Secondly, the only way is to continue pushing in for proper information, and those who are meant for it, they will receive it. Regardless of those who get angry or those who don't hear you, just continually putting out proper information. Now, in my own family, many people are totally brainwashed. But it doesn't hinder me. I just continue. The only way to fight the white man's propaganda of lies is with counter-propaganda of the truth. We must all learn the truth and spread it, and don't become discouraged by those who are not hearing you. Those of us who are awoken, I see the ancestors have touched our shoulders. We are blessed, and we have open eyes among those who are blind. But African proverb that goes, those who know the truth must, and speaker of truth has no friends. So just keep speaking, keep speaking.
Yes, my brother. I'm hearing the line kind of, we're losing one or two of your words, but I hope that the listeners are able to hear you loud and clear. Sister Shahida, you heard the response there from our brother Franklyn. Would you like to come back with a comment or a further question before I ask you to ring off, so that we make way for one or two other callers? We've got 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Sister Shahida, bringing you back for a brief response.
Yes, my sister. Thank you. Yes, I agree. And this is what I've been doing. I'm continuing to bring DVDs over for them to listen, and the young ones in particular, they are my worries. Mm-hmm. They seem to think, it's all lies, and in just the same way Brother Akram was defending Islam. You know, I'm sorry, I cannot do that, but I will continue to educate those young ones, and I'm sure even one or two of them possibly will see the truth.
Yeah, we just need one.
And I
that one
you.
could be the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I really thank you, my brother Franklyn, and keep up the good work. I hope to meet you at some point.
You keep up the great works too, my sister Shahida.
Thank you.
Before you go, Franklyn, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, I want to say one thing. I know she's running. When I was trained in psychological warfare, here's how the white propagandist would handle that problem that she has.
Yeah.
The white propagandist would create a narrative, would make it appear attractive. Mm-hmm. He would create a narrative that is uplifting. He would say that he would promote it as, do you want information that truly uplifts you to your truth? If with the approach, Islam is wrong, Islam's a lie, come see this. They're not going to listen to you.
Right.
But if you present it where it's an appealing narrative, you must sell the truth no differently than our oppressors sell the lies. You have to think positive spin on it. You said you want to know what they're hiding from you. You know what the truth? Here is the elevating truth. And if you present it in that manner, they'll be more receptive. But if you make it from a front that you're showing them that what they believe is a lie, they don't want to hear it. They're already locked in their belief. Their minds. You have to seduce their minds to the truth. The same way our oppressors seduces our minds to lies. I mean, I hope it made sense. You understood what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely did. And the lines are now open. We may have time for just one more call. The number that I've given out the number. Let's try and find my notes so I can get that number back again. I ought to know it off by heart by now. But the number that you need to call in is 0207 193 0174. We might have time for one more caller to call in to put a question to our guest, Brother Franklyn Jones, and you need to get in very quickly so that we can take your call. There was a call trying to come in, caller 728. Caller 728, the line's now free if you want to call in. So, Brother Franklyn Jones, wow, I've so enjoyed our discussion and, the profound knowledge and wisdom that you have shared with us on the airways today. I will be uploading this show onto YouTube or SoundCloud, but I'll put out a notice to the family and friends to let them know where they can get hold of your show, because it is just phenomenal information. In fact, I think I'll probably do it on YouTube because I have thousands of more hits on YouTube than I do to SoundCloud, and I need this message to get out there. Our people need to hear what you are saying, and keep up the phenomenal job that you're doing, my brother, via Facebook and via your website. If our, and I know when we spoke before, you said that what your heart's desire is that we will use the information that you've provided as a learning tool, that we will take the information and we will share it and we will run with it. We will, use it to educate our family and friends. You're not precious about what you've created. Please comment on that and encourage our listeners to take the information, let them know where they can get the information from so that they can share this wisdom that you are sharing with us, my brother.
You can see many of my articles on Facebook at The Black Matrix Reloaded. I also have a web which is called www.theblackpeoplematrix.com. And I'm also on YouTube, The Black Matrix Franklyn Jones. You can see some of my videos. And if you notice, I'm putting out all this information, just use take and share, shake and, and share the information. And I want to thank Sister Shanice for having the courage to have me on, because so many people, black people, are afraid of what I'm talking about.
Wow. My brother, if you can just hold it there, I've just managed to add a caller. Greetings, caller. Who do we have on the line?
Greetings, Sister Shanice. It's Sister Susami again from Botswana. I
welcome, Black Mighty.
Take advantage of your last minute. Yes. I just wanted to let you know, I was talking to a young man. It's a relative that I've decided to take in, 22 years old. And I was asking him questions about what was going on in our village, which is apparently the largest village here in Botswana. There is a missionary person who's now old. He came as a young man to our village, but his church was very quiet, unlike the Catholics and Anglicans and so on. But this relative was telling me that he would entice young people, and what he would do is invite them in, and they would have certain benefits that were assigned to them, attending services, memorizing the Bible, those types of things. So they would have like Christmas gifts, Easter gifts, any opportunity for gifts. And then it also depended on how much of a memorization of the Bible they performed. He said that all they used to think about were the gifts. But then, and obviously, was able to indoctrinate a whole lot of people. And now he has some, physicians following him, all kinds of influential people in the country. And he's even written his own version of the Bible, which is covered. The cover page is the flag of Botswana. Can you imagine? But I just wanted to mention some of the tactics that they use is, these benefits and giving out gifts. Thank you so much, Brother Franklyn Jones and Sister Shanice.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing those tips. And it just takes me back to my childhood, actually, when I used to go to Sunday school. Yeah, because for me it was more about the Christmas parties, the Easter parties, and the biscuits and cakes that we never used to get at home. Yes, my sis, thanks for sharing. Back to you, Brother Franklyn Jones. We are just a couple of minutes away from the top of the hour, so I'm going to have to hand back to the studio very soon. But before we do that, please do remind our listeners where they can get access to the resources and the information that you've been sharing with us today. And I certainly hope that, we'll be able to have you back again as a guest on one of my shows. Let me leave you to have the last few words with our listeners.
Okay, great. All right, in regards to the last caller, she's right. We have to seduce our people with the truth, no differently than oppressive forces seduce them with a lie. So we can't attack our people with the truth. We have to subtly kind of persuade our people into it. Now I want to say again, I thank you all for having me on. I love the opportunity to speak to my brothers and sisters across the pond. I'd like to give a great shout out to my brother Paul. Brother Paul, you're out there. One love and peace, my brother. And Sister Shanice, thank you for having me on. And anytime you want me back, I will do so, because this is my obligation. This is my calling, to wake up my people, to function based upon a reality. There's a warfare tactics used against us, and we liberate ourselves by developing an understanding of these tactics and develop counter strategies against them. Thank you all. Peace and one love to all of my brothers and sisters.
Peace and one love to you, my brother Franklyn, and thank you so much again for making yourself available. It will be an honor and a privilege to have you back as well. I've already learned so much from you, made pages of notes as you was talking, and I'll be putting up the information onto YouTube so that a wider audience, can also hear, your message. Thank you so much. Thank you.
If you go to my page, you can my Facebook page, you can get entire articles on these subjects. Get them and share them and your email contacts. Please do.
Right, wonderful. Thank you so much. We will do. So you've heard that, Galaxy family. You can go to our brother Franklyn Jones's Facebook page, and he's got entire articles on the topics that we've been discussing, and you're free to share. So,
yes.
Share, my family. Each one teach one. That's what it's about.
Yes. One love and peace to all you all.
One love, peace. More power to you as well, my brother. One love. That's our brother Franklyn Jones family, who has been gracious enough to, get up at 5 a.m. in the morning so that he could be with us today to share, his research and his knowledge that he has around this particular issue. And it was a huge amount of information that was dropped on us today. So I can understand if you may want to go back. Rise up, Sister Wynne. She's saying, she wants more information, please, from our brother Franklyn Jones. So I will be inviting him back, and I will also just want to remind you that you can go to his Facebook page, Brother Franklyn Jones, and you can get information in articles that he has written. It's there for us to make good use of. So let's make use of it. Let's talk to our children. Let's start trying to, take the de-brainwashing out onto the streets. Rising Up Galaxy Afiwe, the only de-brainwashing station. I want to thank you so much for giving me a platform on this wonderful radio station. Galaxy family, all the listeners, I want to thank you so much for listening as well. So just to remind you that you can actually go to my YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search for the Sista Shanice Show. Sister is spelled S-I-S-T-A. If you go there, you'll be able to find some of the shows that I've done, and I would really, appreciate love if you were to go there, like the videos, subscribe. Rise up, Brother Anu. Thank you so much. So Brother Anu is the other end. I think he's waiting to take over. So I want to thank you all, Galaxy family, for giving me your listening ear. And all being well, I will be back on Saturday. I should have Brother Irritated Genie, and I should also have a sister as well talking about credit union. So it's going to be another great show on Saturday. So please do tune in. And I'm going to sign out with a track called Black Pearl by our brother Dave. A powerful track and an awesome, fearless brother. And I want you to listen to this track right to the end, because the end is, in my opinion, powerful. Rising up, the Galaxy family. Sister Shanice out of here. Before I go, just a reminder, we've got just one more strong, 7 more days or so before the end of the month. And if you want to get the early bird for the trip to Tanzania or for the trip to Zimbabwe, you need to get your booking form and your deposit in by the end of the month, okay? And the email address that you need is starlightglobalevents@yahoo.com. That's Starlight Global Events with an S at yahoo.com. Sister Shanice signing out. Thank you so much for listening. Do keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. Signing out this show with a track called Black Pearl.